you get there, you're like, you've got another vision that's higher.
Yeah.
If you're that kind of person, it snowballs and continues.
Or if you get there and you don't have a vision that's higher, you then now have to live with the paranoia of falling from that grace.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's interesting too. And I guess that comes down to, because I've had this thought, and the tail end of that was like, if you prescribe to a pre-existing religion, you go and pick off the shelf, like, I'm going to be a Buddhist, or I'm going to be a Catholic, or I'm going to be a Satanist even, or a, whatever. And you go, I've got this book now, I'm going to do my life like this book says. Someone else wrote the book, or a bunch of other people wrote the book. Even if it was divine, I have the arrogance to go, well, okay, I'll make up something different. I'll customize. I'll be an individual. I'll go in this pathway. I'll take what I want from all these things and what makes sense to me in the context of the moment and the thing I'm doing. Because like, I want to attain and put out the highest good for the thing I'm doing at the time. Yeah. Which doesn't always mean I get what I want. It sometimes means I get other people what they want, or I help others. And so that is like, that's the way I like to think about it. And it makes you feel more powerful. It's like, sometimes you'll hear songs, or you'll hear, read books and stuff, and there's always this, they've got a lot of good points, then overarching, they have this thing that they consider to be above them or more than them, and I think, oh, well, you just lost me, because it's like, I always like putting concepts out to the highest and the biggest. Like, that's my thing, is always going to infinity with everything, which, obviously has some impacts on sleep and other things, in life. Because flying close to the sun. Sometimes a bit too close, and risk taking and things like that. But I think you learn a lot when you do that. And also because I consider myself like a spiritual infant, in the sense that, and that's also this way of thinking, in the sense that, like, some people are like, oh, you sound wise or whatever. It's like, well, no, because like, if you can feel your potential as this like thing that's like looming over you and saying like, well, if you did this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and learned how to control yourself, you could actually be this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. It's like, oh, that's huge. And it's like, sometimes I feel like I'm looking at my potential as just this Jupiter-sized planet, and I'm like some asteroid floating past it, being like, oh, I'm trying,
Yep. Is that kind of like, how you have, like, say if there's a big pool of water on the ground, and if a smaller droplet of water is its own separate little droplet of water, but if they come close to each other, it just gets engulfed by the bigger thing?
Kind of, yeah. And the thing, it's not that the potential, let's call the potential like an entity. It's not that that's laughing at me. It's encouraging me. It's like pulling me towards it. So it's trying to pull me from.
If it laughed at you, would it be like a benevolent chuckle?
But the thing is that I feel like there's that potential that is me. It's all me. It's not like I'm saying there's any sort of separation or whatever, but it's like that thing. I also ignore it when I want to. Yeah. If I want to do some destructive behavior, and that is obviously not what I want to be doing.
Pretend you don't hear your parents ask you to do something.
Yeah, and you should have done those dishes. They've been there for like 3 hours, and they need them done so they can cook dinner. And I don't want to play this game. I don't care. This song's better than
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. I'm almost got to level 6. Come on, just leave me alone. Or even if, like, alcohol's a good example. Like, you're drinking and you think this is the point I should stop because I'm about to make bad decisions, or decisions that I might think later were probably not the best ones. Yeah. But you like something and you're like, I don't care. And you feel selfish and you're like, well, I want to keep feeling good. So I'm going to do it anyway, Yeah. And that's the kind of thinking I need to get further away from.
Do you think that's like the impulses of the body arguing with the potential of the mind?
It kind of is. It's like the choice to ignore that, and that's where guilt comes in. If you ignore that feeling and you do something that's not great, then guilt is like this really good gift of, if you listen to it, you're like, you feel like that because you did something wrong. Yeah. And then if you grow from that and go, okay, so that I feel guilty because of that, it's like cause and effect. It's like you punch the wall and your hand's broken and you're in pain for 3 weeks. Not that I've done that, but it's like, that's the universe saying, like, don't do that again, that was stupid, kind of thing. It's very obvious, but a lot of people will do destructive behaviors and then be angry at the world because the world didn't save them. It's like you've got to save yourself, you know.
Yeah, it's like it's not my fault. It's fucking society.
Yeah, no, I went down to Centrelink, and then there was this guy in front of me, and he called me a cunt, so I just didn't, you know. It's like there's always someone else. So now I'm in a jail cell. What's wrong with that? What would you have done if someone called you that? You know, it's like, well, I would have walked away, mate. You know,
yeah,
you have to have yourself.
I've heard some people split out, and I can't really remember how this works properly, but splitting out the difference between like shame and guilt. Like shame, like one is more like optimal than the other in terms of like motivating better change or something like that. Like guilt is
guilt when you know you did something wrong and you shouldn't have done it?
I think so. And I think shame is when you've been made to consider that something that is actually all right is wrong.
Yeah.
Or maybe I've got that in reverse.
Like if you were playing soccer and you had like, you did your best, but you didn't win, and your dad was like, "You got to win next week," you know, and you feel shameful. Yeah, is that a good example? Yeah. Not that my dad ever did that. He was very supportive, but I'm just saying, like, you know. Yeah.
So in that example, like the shame would be like I actually gave it my all.
Yeah.
My dad was disappointed. I feel ashamed. Whereas I actually could have played way better because I stayed up really late last night, and so now I'm guilty.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. And that is an interesting point, bringing up like the fact we've mentioned dads is like, I think part of me and part of my evolution, let's say, has been trying to be my own dad, if that makes sense. And I've obviously got a dad, and he is a good person, and he does help me and that sort of thing. But it's like some people I see, they go through life and they're very dependent on parents.
Yeah.
And even into their 20s and 30s and whatnot, and they're always being helped, and they're always being, you know, and I think I actually benefited from being more independent once I got out of home and just actually really taking on the responsibility, which is similar to the spiritual responsibility of like, you know, it's like I'll take on, and this brings me back to, obviously, Peterson goes on about this a lot, which has resonated with me a lot.
The future is a judgmental father.
No, just the fact that responsibility is your antidote to when you have all this crazy stuff going on. Because if you've got something you have to look after, like an injured animal, or, you know, you've got to handle a classroom or whatever, which is part of what I do for work now. It's like that takes precedence over all this other stuff, and all this like, what if like an asteroid came and there was some like bacteria on it, and then that made like a fish, and then like years later there's me, and oh man, like all that's, you're not thinking about that stuff. You're thinking about, let's handle this situation. Similar with the stage, with music. Yeah. You sit down, well, for me, it's on the drum kit, and it's like, I need to do all these things. Otherwise, all these people around me are going to be really angry at me.
Yeah.
And the crowd is going to disperse and be like, why did I pay money to come here?
Yeah.
And that's like, there's fear in that, but it's also like, of course I wouldn't mess it up, because I want this too, you know? So
I didn't mention as well that not only are you a drummer, you're an extreme metal drummer as well. Which means that like, so not just like, you know, like, there's the drummers that can sit back and sort of hang in the pocket and whatever, and, you know, like maybe they can actually have a late night last night. It might actually make them slightly groovier or whatever, but you've got to be like precisionally match fit, because you are playing an extreme amount of beats in a small span of time, and you're kind of the linchpin of your whole band genre, in a way. Like kind of, the drummer is always the soul of a band, but even more so in extreme metal, I guess.
Train tracks, I look at it
exactly. So if you're not up to the song on stage, you train wreck the whole thing.
If you've got a tempo you need to reach, like say 200 or 220 BPM, which is actually fairly moderate and low for extreme metal, but I'm comfortable around that most of the time. It's like if you're at 190, all the riffs are falling back, and you feel it coming back. And if someone's been listening to an album for a long time and they know it's supposed to be that fast, and you're not able to reach that, there's a sense of lethargy to it, and it's still fine and whatever. And you'll still have a couple of drunk people at the front who've never heard it before, like, this is sick, man, like, you know, but you know it's not how it's supposed to sound. And that reminds me of like the concept of like, I think it's the proximal development thing that Peterson talks about, but it's the concept of flow as well. Like having the thing, like say your ability is, and this is a good analogy to use, you're actually comfortable at 190 BPM. So you can keep the kicks going, keep the, you know, basic beat, and you can do that for say 5 minutes. If you put it up to 195 or 200, and then you can only do that for 3 minutes, you're actually peaking your ability in terms of your physical ability, because you're using all your limbs. It's like you're finding your limit in a physical sense. And one of the freedoms I find about drumming is if I've got every limb doing something and I'm behind all this metal and all this chrome and all this like skins and everything, I can't physically, not that I ever would, but I can't actually hurt any human being or anything on the planet. So I'm free to like get my rage out, get my all of the energy that's in all of the different things. And sometimes I've had some like full spiritual revelations while doing that, because another thing I do to relax is like I'll overstimulate. Like I'll have a game going, podcast, music, whatever, and I'll switch between them and be controlling, you know, usually like a first person shooter or something. And it's fast. And it's like when all of the mental stimulation is to the point where I'm actually comfortable, I start to have insights, if that makes sense.
On stage?
No, I'm just talking about in general overstimulation. So on stage, I've had it, and also while just at home playing Unreal Tournament or something, listening to, you know, Nile or some crazy metal band. That it's almost like if you've got a brain that functions at a quick pace, or and you're introspective and you think a lot. Sometimes you need it to be at its capacity. Like how you've got the things. The peaking things where it goes green, then it goes yellow, then it goes red on like a mixer.
That's weird that you said that, because that was the exact analogy I was going to use a few minutes ago. Clipping the send.
You don't want to be in the red, but you want to be in the green, just a tiny bit of orange, because it's not going to sound bad, but you're also pushing.
Well, it doesn't sound good until you hit the orange a little bit.
Like that's the zone of proximal development. That's the flow state. So there we go. That we just sussed out.
Right.
Oh, good.
Okay.
That one's done. Next.
Solved.
So I might bring something up that I had on my notes. So of controlling self, I've sort of gone over that. But the idea of being yourself, right? I've thought about this a lot.
This is something you and I try to do a lot.
Yeah. And when I am being authentic, it feels good.
Well, I think everybody tries to do this, but you, like I said before, being ourself is something that, well, our individual selves are quite loud individually. And so being ourselves is something that has brought us great privilege and immense negativity.
Some problems as well. When you're too honest, but when you're to yourself in the wrong context. So like if you act the way you would act outside of work in a professional setting, you know, it's kind of not always going to go down well, because you're expected to act a certain way. And there are times in life when I feel like I'm going to be authentic all the time. And it's like, you just can't in some places. Well, the thing is, here's the thing, you can, but there are consequences.
You can, but there's a price.
There's a price. And it's like, you need to know what that is. And it might actually turn out to be quite an interesting experience if you cross those barriers and merge those worlds. And actually, you know, and a lot of people will, it's like when I left, this has gone back many years, but I left a job when I was an employment consultant, and things weren't going well. But I remember sitting down at the team meeting in the morning and just saying, I will be leaving, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people who were there for life, who had mortgages and stuff like that, were just like, good on you. Well done, man. Like,
Run,
you know,
man.
They were just like, go while you can, mate. I'm stuck here, you know? And and after that, I went to Europe and I did a bunch of stuff. And, you know, it was like, I realized there's a few moments, actually, that's a really good one to mention. Working in a call center, because I don't think I'll ever work in a call center again. Is I did 2 months in a call center with my training. So it's full-time hours, getting up at 5 o'clock, because I live down in Seaford Rise. It was basically helping people with, there was sales and billing at, you know, internet company. And then I was going to be getting into potentially technical help and all this other stuff. And I tried a bit of all of it.
Which would have been great for you, because you're very technological.
I've got a bit of IT knowledge, and that it's more so to see how well games can run, rather than like how to network and how to actually get work done.
Means to an end.
But yeah, I mean, I need to know enough about that to do the current job I do and everything as well. But it's more like I like figuring out how things work. So, you know, I'll be interested in that. But and try not to tangent. Get back to the story. Okay. So I did my 2 months of training, and because I think I learn in an interesting way too. I don't learn the way a lot of other people do in terms of academia. I learn with experiences. Better, you know, than theory and stuff. So, but I can do that if I really apply myself and wrangle the mind and quiet it, and then go, let's do this.
Yeah.
So anyway, 2 months of training, did a bunch of calls, got on the phone, helped people, blah, 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 fixed people's bills up, did all that stuff. And I was set to start the job the next week. And like I said, I was getting up early. I was getting home late. I was living, a train and a bus ride away from the city, but it started at 8 o'clock and it finished at, 5:30 or 6 or something, long hours. But it was, $19 an hour. It wasn't a good job. It was a job for someone who's 19 or 20, but I was like 25 or something at the time, 26.
Yeah.
And I'd had my own office in my previous job. I'd had like the kind of job that, you get later, and then I'd gone
you
back
worked
to
your way
like
up to a point.
Yeah. So I felt like I was stepping backwards, and plus it was a lot of younger people. They gamified the whole job so that if you were there, if you did all your stats for like a month, you got this star, and then you did this, and then you got more money and all this stuff.
Achievement unlocked.
But the thing I didn't like the most was you had 40 minutes of time you could be away from your calls.
Yep.
So you had 40 minutes of away time.
At your leisure, you could use it whenever you wanted.
Well, you weren't supposed to use it. You were supposed to, you go to the toilet and everything in your 15-minute breaks or in the half-hour lunch in the middle.
Yeah.
So you had to schedule and map your life around the times they told you could be away from your desk. Because if you weren't on the phone, you're not at work.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
And you had managers and stuff who, if they saw that you weren't on a call, would stand up and be like, looking over at you like, what's going on, mate?
Because there are people there whose
phone,
only job
Yeah.
is to police that.
Yes.
That's their whole job.
Yep. And having, like I said, I had my own office. I had, all these different things in a previous job. So I had a sense of like control over and doing the job the way I wanted to and all that sort of thing. So this was like, okay, this sucks.
And you're going to, the annoying part is you don't even get to be mad, even though you are at the time, at the person whose job it is.
No, because that's their job.
Because if they don't, someone's watching them.
I know. Yeah. And it's all stats. It's all money. And little things annoyed me. Like there would be someone who had a bill and there was some money left in their account and they were closing their account. And I'd be like talking to a supervisor, like, oh, do I tell them they've got like $14? And they're like, no, just don't tell them. So that the company could pocket the $14, which is like, it's just, if the person had their stuff, their shiz together, they could have known that and actually, but most people are busy and don't. Yep. So I thought that's a little bit immoral. Yep. Anyway, it wasn't a bad job. Like I said, that free coffee, free snacks, free fruit, all that sort of thing. But it was for younger people. So anyway, what I'm getting at is that weekend.
How old a young person?
I'm thinking 20, 19, 22, someone who loves computers and loves games and stuff and needs an income and doesn't mind being sat in an office on a headset all day. Yeah. And that's another thing I couldn't handle, is because in a previous job, I had a vitamin D deficiency from not being in the sun, and I could see the sun outside, and I was taking pills of vitamin D being like, it's just there, but I'm not allowed to go out there because I have to be here. So it's just like, that was strange to me.
Yeah.
But I made full-time money and I could go to Europe. So I was like, oh, yin and yang. But anyway, the weekend, just before I was supposed to start the job, I thought it through and I went, I don't want this. I don't want to do this. This sucks. Yeah. So I thought it through and realized in the morning, I was going to, in poetic justice style, call up and quit over the phone because it's a call center. So I called the manager and I was like, yeah, mate, how you going? He's like, oh, yeah, first day today. You're all good? Do you know when you're starting? I'm like, I won't be there, mate. It's not for me. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, oh, it's not for me. I had to think about it. It's not my gig. I'm really sorry it's sudden, but I just don't want to, I'm not going to be there today. I'm sorry if that puts you out, but I've made a decision and I won't be there. And he's like, what? And he instantly just said, well, you won't get your holiday pay. And I was like, that's all right. I'll get paid for last week, right? He's like, well, yeah, because you were here, but you won't get your sick leave paid out. I'm like, that's all right. You can keep that. I don't like it. It made me feel cagey and blah, blah. And I tried to explain. I said, like, it's not for me. I'm not going to be there. Yeah. And he was flabbergasted. He's like, well, it's like, how do you, no, you can't do that sort of thing. It's like, well, I just did.
What do you mean you're not scared of me?
Yeah. Like, well, and he had a family. He was obviously there for good reasons. And whatnot. He wasn't a bad guy, but it's just like, I realized like, I didn't want that. And then, because I lived down south at the time, I called up some mates and said, what are you guys doing? And they said, oh, we're just playing cards out the back, having a few beers. Do you want to come around? It was like 11:30 on a Monday. I'm like, yeah. And I just sat, and after like 2 hours, I was, tipsy on a Monday morning or Monday afternoon by that point, and just living. And I went, you can change your life in an instant if you want to. And of course, there's consequences for that. I only had a certain amount of money in the bank and I had to be careful and blah, blah, blah. But then I also had this thought of like, I can get a different job. Yeah. Because I've done it 5 or 6 times before. Yeah. I don't have to be there. Yeah. I can choose and have the confidence to go, I'm going to burn that down and kind of burn that bridge. That's one of the only times I've done that. Usually it's amicable leaving a job and you get your references and all that stuff. But it was just one of those things where I just went, that's not my life. I'm not sitting in a room every week and then, you know, having that pat on the back and well done, mate, clap. And it's like, I need to be in front of people. I can't, you know, I need to be able to go outside. I need all that stuff. So that was just a wake up call to like, and I really did change my life. And then I've of course got different jobs and moved on. I was never in severe poverty. It was fine.
Yeah. I reckon even it sucks for the young people. I had a full-time call center job when I was 20, working in telecommunications, same sort of thing, the internet and phone and whatever. And I took it on because I was just so excited about like, I'm going to have this sick job and all my like family and stuff will think I'm doing a cool thing. And then I'll have all this money to invest in the band because I was in double-handed at the time.
Yeah.
And I just moved out. I was living in a share house. It was fully sick, mate, and had my own pad, had my own staff.
Was that in Oldalunga?
No, it was Port Nalunga.
Hey.
Yeah. Robin Street.
Dude.
Yeah. And I then realized very quickly that sometimes they were going to make me work 6 days a week for a like really shitty wage.
Yeah.
It was a really bad wage. And I was going to be like from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, either at work or in transit, and then get home. It was horrible. I lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah. And some of your stories of quitting are quite funny as well. Like look, we could get into that later, but no, it's like, it's one thing I've heard as well that creative people have to be creative, and you wither away if you're not. If you know, I end up being creative within the confines of a job if I can, in the sense that like one of the things I did when I was at Work Skill, which was many years ago, which is a full-time role, is I would just imagine that I calculated that I think every 7 minutes or 8 minutes, I got $1. It's like $1 coin would appear on my desk in terms of that was from the wage and the time and whatever. So I just imagined every half hour there was a $2 coin and they would just stack up. So if I'm sitting here doing the job, ticking the things off, that was accumulated wealth. And I was like, well, it's just another half hour. And I'd cut the day into little chunks. And even if it was going badly, and of course, but that only lasted so long because like I used to do this thing where I'd be working and be, you know, professional. And have you looked for your 4 jobs? Yep. Cool. All right. Well, this is coming up and you've got work experience in 2 weeks. So, or whatever it was, work for the doll. But I'd get so in that professional headspace, I'd have to, when I go to the bathroom, I'd look in the mirror and just full Jim Carrey it and just make all these faces and be stupid and silly at myself and make myself laugh because it had to come out, because all that energy was pent up in this little box being like,
I just remember having coffee headaches from drinking fuck loads of coffee. And then sleeping in the sick bay for my 10-minute breaks, just like having a 10-minute sleep every fucking session. But here's how they dupe you though, right? How amazing when you, cause I've worked in a few call centers now because I just kept trying them. How amazing is the 2 week, it's usually 2 week training period. Right. I loved that. Hanging out in the room with the other newbies and you're learning and stuff and whatever. And you're like, this is a cool place to work. I'm like, I've already developed a social circle. I've made some buddies, etc. The training ends, you get out on the floor, you put your headset on and you shut the fuck up. You fucking talk to anybody else. And these are not your friends.
You guys having fun over here, are you? Oh, I've got to shut that down, don't we? There's calls to be made, money to be made. Come on. Snap to it.
Like once the training's over, you pretty much say goodbye to these people because you're going to just like maybe
disperse.
Yeah, you're not going to see or talk to that person.
Or you see them in the break room and you have like a little conversation like, oh, I've only got 30 seconds left and my soup's in there. So I'm just going to actually like inhale that and then have reflux while I'm on the phone. So I'll talk to you later. Like
you all look at each other in the break room after the training's finished with that stupefied look in your face going like, how fuck did this job get real quick, man? And
you know what's funny? When they show you this is an example of a bad call. It's always the funniest, best call you've heard. And obviously it's angry people with their bill and stuff. And I had a few pearlers, but that's the thing about the worlds of like, you know, professionalism and work and then comedy and stuff is like, you don't go and do a comedy show about how you did your job perfectly and everything worked out fine. You say like, I had this fucking nugget call me today. And he was like, you know, and you tell the story of the weird guy. He's like, I'm at the train station. Oh, I can't do my bill now because, you know, and it's that crazy weird stuff that gets the laughs, you know?
I'm not even lying. I had I just couldn't get to the bill because my daughter died and the doctors said that they could bring her back to life, but I didn't have the money.
So obviously I've prioritized like my daughter over the bill because, you know, there's a chance and that. I mean, I did leave her on the train tracks accidentally because I had to go and get me beers that were rolling back down into the gutters. But, you know, no.
Yeah.
I know I always go too far. But
so we got one comment. I've been at the same job for 14 years. It's not great, but it gives me time to do the things that I like.
And that's important too.
Yeah.
I think, like, I'm lucky in the sense, like, I found a job that really matters to me, and I'm still, I guess, working out how to do it optimally in terms of satisfying all the different requirements of it. But I'm not actually there just for the money anymore.
Yeah.
And I've told everyone in the business that too,
because it's
I've
not
been
enough
about that. Well, it's not.
It
like,
will never be enough.
No, it's not. And you need to be like, is a good example is, like, I was in a lighting shop before this job, and basically, like, part of it I liked, like, you know, putting away boxes and doing different things and being physical and, you know, learning about electricity and learning about, you know, big volume sales, like $5,000, $8,000 sales and stuff like that. It was cool. But, and when it was under good management, it was good too. But the thing was, a lot of the time, a lot of the clientele that would come there would be people, that's okay, people with excess income who've earned their money, they're in their 40s or 50s, and they wanted opulence.
Sorry, I was on screen then. I can't wait to watch that back to see if all these boogers just came flying out.
Slow motion.
Sorry, keep going.
That's all good. But basically, like, a lot of the job was talking to people who had this attitude of like, go and get that for me, please. And just bring that down. And very well, yeah, because it was high class, like opulent lighting fixtures and stuff like that. So obviously some people,
no, we don't count those like that.
Yeah. And you had some people tell you how to do your job and all sorts, like, it was, you have to maintain that, like,
customers
facade
or
of
co-workers.
Customers come in and be like, I've studied this, and actually you've got all these priced wrong, and this is all priced wrong, and you need to, it's like, dude. And it was crazy. And so there's all that. And then I would be obviously patient and nice and professional and all that sort of thing, which is good to build yourself into, because it's like a good exercise for yourself. But after a while I realized, like, I've got a certain amount of energy and talent and instincts and wit and whatever. It's like, I'm kind of wasting my time doing this because I could be helping others in a direct way, because they don't really need those lights. They've got lights. They just have a dining room that when all their rich friends come over, they go, well, let's go to the new dining room. Oh, I'll get the silver platters out. And it's like,
I also don't think that this means that there's nothing wrong with anybody that's happy to do the same thing a lot.
Of course not.
If you're the kind of person that's happy to do the same thing a lot. But I think you and I struggle in jobs like that because we want to keep doing something new.
We want to evolve as people.
Something new.
Yeah. And I think we want to learn more and become better as people. So this is my theory, is that if you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, you might have stable income. You know, you've got your routine set. You know that you can go on a Friday to your sporting thing or your music or your whatever your hobby is. You play your games, you see your mates, you whatever you do. But it's like, and that's good because you have consistency, and people like routine and they like consistency. But I like to change things up every so often. Like, and I've had a lot of different jobs. And when I went to work at Roger David, the lady was like, "You've had heaps of different types of jobs." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, that's kind of strange, because she'd just done retail all her life. And I thought, well, but I've learned more than you, because I've had, 5 or 6 different careers. And it's like, well, not careers, but different types of work.
Yeah.
And it's like, I now know about the kind of people that come to that shop.
You're a mixed martial artist. Not just doing taekwondo your whole life.
Like I've learned different things and I've traveled, and so it's like,
which you've done musically as well. You don't just play extreme metal. You play funk,
folk rock,
kinds of stuff.
I've played blues before, and we did a rock band when we were out of high school, which was great. And just, so we
were pretty good.
We were just quietly. Yep. And the funny thing about that band, just quickly, is how it came out of a silliness project.
Yeah.
That was all about, let's just have fun and make weird stuff.
And we couldn't help but accidentally
be like,
make cool stuff.
We're actually pretty good at this. We should do this.
Yeah.
And then, there's so many funny stories, but that's like, that's the thing about evolution, is if you stick to that, and of course, like, you had your direction and I had new direction, and everyone had their own directions, which is great, because then you grow in different ways. And even in regards to death metal, like, I played only in death metal bands for a good 3 or 4 years, and then realized that's one of the reasons I joined Dirty Frank, is because it's like, it's a different thing, and I'm learning about different things, and we're playing in different venues. And
that
all that
changed your metal drumming.
Yes, ghosting, ghost notes,
Right.
subtlety, and also like the
Like, so
ability.
it's brought more dynamic into it.
Somewhat. I mean, some bands have space for dynamic in the metal scene, some don't. Some
Yeah.
it's just the wall of noise. But
Yeah.
there's still things you can do. You can even be dynamic in terms of tempo
Yep.
or rhythmic. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm probably not making heaps of sense because I just had a thought that I haven't had before about, it's kind of like polyrhythms in the sense you can be dynamically playing one part, maybe it's the ride, and then everything else is locked in to a certain volume and tempo. And it's like,
so a polyrhythm, for someone that doesn't know, is you using your limbs independently to make a beat that is on a different count to the other beats. One might be in 4, one might be in 3 or whatever, and they go together to make like, like pass the goddamn butter. Pass the goddamn butter.
Pass the goddamn butter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. This doesn't relate to what I just said about that, but this one example of that is playing, constant kicks, and then going ting 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 on the ride to build up.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I've always liked about listening to, because I don't listen to much extreme metal. And so probably the only extreme metal I really do listen to is whenever you've done something new.
Right.
So I'll listen to that. But I do hear that. I hear you bringing dynamic into incredibly intense, fast stuff.
Yeah,
You're like,
I try
you're not
to.
just playing the beats.
And it depends how it's mixed as well. Like there's so much stuff I wanted to do with Alters when that was happening in terms of the next album. I had these ideas for, like, imagine if you're playing constant kicks at, 200, 220, whatever BPM, but you're actually going and bringing up the volume and then bringing it down and having that amount of control, which is, I've never been able to have.
Right.
But there are some drummers that play fast without triggers. And you have to like, it's like a whole day of fixing the bass drum so that it comes through and the waveform is correct and whatever. Because of, obviously, when you get faster, it gets more muddy. If you've got that digital signal, it's clearer. But there's so much you can do. Like, it's endless. Like, that's one thing Bill Burr said about drumming. He's like, I just love it because it doesn't end. You can always get better. Yeah, you can always learn more. And it's the same as music.
He's pretty good too.
He is not bad. Yeah, I've seen him play with some of his. He plays with like ensembles and stuff. Yeah, sometimes at Madison Square Garden. It's so cool. Yeah.
So I got a cool question for you about metal music, right?
Yes.
So a little while ago, I was watching David Lee Roth on Joe Rogan talk about jazz, and Rogan was like, "I've just never been able to get into jazz or whatever." David Lee Roth was like, "It's because no one's ever told you how to listen to it." Ooh, So then he sort of explained the nuances of jazz, and then I've never really quite all the way gotten into jazz either. And the way he explained it was, he was like, it's not just like, say, like fusion jazz, for example, or whatever, like can just sound like a bunch of like random chord inversions and stuff and just some fast notes or whatever. You're like, it all kinds of sound the same. But when you listen to it closely, it's the little things. Like, so he broke it down. It was like the difference between John Lennon and Paul McCartney, like, so Paul McCartney's kind of more straight optimistic notes, ba 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 ba, whereas like John Lennon is like ba 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 ba, I don't know, like more
playing the black keys more, a bit more obscure.
Yeah, so you're like, well, if you took away the words and just listened to the notes, what are the notes saying? Well, one of the notes are saying something optimistic, and the other notes are saying something whatever.
It's a mood thing.
So a lot of people would say that extreme metal is just, well, you said it a second ago, wall of noise. What is the correct way to listen to it? What makes some stand out from the others? Why does some get through and why do others not? When people that are uninitiated would listen to both and be like, it's just both, they're both fucking just noisy.
I think it's like a graduated exposure thing, and it comes down to the way you process the world and sound as well. So for example, I heard when I was, I think, 16, I heard Diablos in Musica by Slayer. I think your old friend Ryan gave me a copy of that.
Did he?
From high school. Yeah. And I looked at the cover and everything, and I was scared by it. I was like, I can't, no, I'm going to, like, Satan will come and take me, and like, it's going to be bad. And I liked the sound, but I was like, I can't listen to this. And I was scared by it. Yeah, because I hadn't ever seen anything like that before. Same with Dimmu Borgia's Puritanical Euphoric Misanthropia. When I first heard it, I literally had the authentic thought in my mind, like, no one can play drums that fast. He must have sold his soul to the devil to be able to do that.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Right. And because I hadn't
just minded then.
No, I just hadn't quantified things like good and evil yet,
Right.
which I feel like I've done now, which I can get into later, which is, you know,
I would like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's put the note for that. So good, evil, thread the needle. Yeah, because I feel like you can just take from either concept and then get your result as long as it's a positive one, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if someone comes up to try and hurt you and your family, you use evil, which is
violence
to hurt them.
Yeah.
So, but if you can calm them down and talk them down, you're using good to dissolve that situation. So that's basic.
Evil sometimes is just somebody that has, for their example, become too smart to bother trying to be good anymore.
Yeah. Or they've realized that you can get results by being a shit person. Yeah. Because people get scared of you, but the results are bad because you've taken their happiness to get. It's like when you go, "Oi, have you got a ciggy? Give me a ciggy," and someone who doesn't have the wherewithal to say "get fucked," will actually be like, "Yeah, man. Oh, sorry. Yeah, here you go." But then they feel a kg for the rest of the day, and you've got your ciggy, but not, being very south down. But you're actually,
which is where we come from. That's okay.
That's what I'm exposed to it now that I live down there as well. But in answer to your question about metal, so like if you grow up and you hear, I remember the first heavy song I heard was Fuel by Metallica. Yeah. Because it was on SAFM, which for those who are younger, if they're listening, it's like today's, what's it called? Hit 107. Yeah. It's the commercial radio with every 30 seconds it's like, and today in the blah, blah, blah. And it's like some stupid ad, comes on and they're having a conversation with techno music in the background. Like it's just, what is it, to keep you awake so you keep listening because you work 60 hours and you hate yourself.
Antonika wants to know, do you think that people are inherently good?
I think an infant's a blank slate. I think an infant is like, you can program it, not like actually program it because the world does that. So but you're a big influence. So the idea I have behind it, and I don't know this because I haven't had children before, but it's like, I think that the world makes you and you make but you get to a point where you can start to make yourself when you start to realize some of these things. So I would say we're inherently nothing and we can become good or evil.
Yeah. I agree with that. Here's the other thing that I tell people. I say this a lot in with clients. So when I'm dealing with clients that have been exposed to extreme trauma or whatever, or have experienced the hand of evil in a pretty intense way, I explain to them. So one of the things that so like the massacre in New Zealand,
I heard about
all that stuff, all the shootings, like all the horrible stuff, all of the examples of people doing horrible things, and people do this whole like, I just don't understand. I don't understand how someone could be like that. I try to explain to people that should make more sense to you. It should make more sense to you that, and here's why: an infant probably learns to snatch something off of a person before they realize that is not a good social contract between them and someone else.
Because they get
I will just have what I want. Yeah. Oh, wait, their reaction shows me that maybe I don't want to repeat this behavior or whatever. So we usually kind of do fucked up things on our way to finding what the not fucked up things are to do. So there's actually... we do. It should actually be less. It should actually be more surprising to people when people are great. Yeah, than it should be surprising when they're fucked.
And I think when people say, "I can't believe they've done that. Why would they do that?" They're looking at that person's behavior from their perspective. So they're saying, "I would never do that." From the point of view of their house and their car and their fridge full of food or whatever. And I don't know anything about this shooter or whatever, but I don't know about trauma. I don't know how his brain is formed. Like some people literally don't have the hardware, the proper hardware, or it's messed up somehow. Like the thing they did studies on psychopaths and stuff.
Broken.
Yeah, and it's like then you have to. Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. But I think it comes down to like teaching and learning and understanding that there's good attention and bad attention. Like a lot of people want to make a mark on the world. Most people want to be heard. Most people want to be loved. Well, everyone wants to be loved. Come on. And there's all these different ways of manifesting that. But it's like, because I spend a lot of time by myself and I introspect and I listen to teachers off the internet or off of, I read books a little bit, and I also just take all that stuff and say, well, let's arrange it now and how am I going to apply it? Because one thing is listening to stuff. Like I remember for years, I would listen to songs or to, good motivational speakers or to good professors and clinical psychologists and that, and go, oh, that makes sense, and then just go about doing the things I would do in a normal way. Grab a 6-pack after a hard day and smash that down and look down and be like, I'm getting fat again. Oh, that's not optimal, you know. But then when you apply those things and you start to actually apply it and do things differently, you go, oh,
results
that's
show.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, you know, and you get that job and you get paid and you look at the money in the bank and you go, oh yeah, you just have to do it. Like
that's Peterson and Sam Harris's debate on what is truth. You know, like, so the stuck point they got in there is like Peterson's whole thing was that you know something's true by the way it turns out.
Yeah, it's the proofs in the pudding thing. Like that, and that this just quickly, this is something I've realized that can help people let go of if they have, like, if they've got a friend they're not connected with, or someone they have feelings for and stuff like that, is like things are what they are. So when people go to bed and put their head on the pillow, their thoughts and their feelings are something. Even if they're presenting or manifesting in a different way when they're in person with someone, or whether, you know, you're not with someone for practical reasons, or that whatever the situation might be, and you're stressing out about it, going, I don't know if someone likes me, I don't know how this feels. It's like, well, they feel how they feel.
Yeah.
And then that is what it is. So that cannot really be changed by you. It can be influenced by you and your behaviors and stuff. But it's like, there's comfort in that, to know like the way you affect everybody is, it's evident in the way they interact with you. It's not just evident in what they say.
Brent Freeman says hearing versus truly listening.
Yeah, totally.
Hearing and
Completely.
actually listening.
Completely.
You hear everything, but you don't listen to everything.
And listening's huge. Like for me, and you know, I'm sure there's people who can tell you with a lot of authority that I have trouble listening. I do like to talk a lot. But the problem is when I'm talking to someone and I'm having exchange, sometimes I'm actually figuring stuff out as I'm saying something. And then that's a new level. Oh, maybe that, and maybe that. And then it takes someone often as extreme as me to actually be able to interject and be like, oi, I've got something to say. And if someone is a bit more passive, they'll generally bear the brunt of everything without being able to bring me back down. But it, you know, it can go both ways. But in answer to your question real quickly about the music thing. So, and because I think this is important.
Sorry, just before we go there, we were asked, what role do we think genetics play then in people's ability to become good or evil?
Well, it's a blueprint, isn't it? It's like having a computer that can run a certain game or run a certain, you know, it's a cultural blueprint too. It's not just genetics. Like you've got your machine, and that is like, I've got limitations to my machine. Everyone does. Yeah. But
like a bicycle will transport you, but it's not a good attack vehicle.
Yeah, not exactly. You know? Unless you're super cunning.
You can go out and attack someone on a bicycle, but you probably won't be very successful.
Probably not. If it's a tank, you know, you're probably screwed. But but also like genetics and all that, I think it's a moot point, because it's like you just work around. Well, it's not a moot point at all, but you work around it in the sense like you've got what you've got. And I think it's one of these things that people get caught up on, especially people who do horrible racial stuff to other people, if they isolate themselves and don't expose themselves to other cultures. Because you can look at the constants in all cultures, like they love their family, they want a good life, they love eating food, they love, you know, like we've got so much in common as a species, and with animals. It's like, okay, so we're different, we look different and stuff, but when you actually ingratiate yourself in another culture and you get somewhat accepted into it, you realize, oh, they're doing life in a different way, their way is cool as well. It's like, so it doesn't really matter that anybody's different to each other genetically. It's actually to be celebrated and all that sort of thing. But there are things that are difficult as well, in terms of some relationships can be difficult because of cultural differences and because of belief systems and stuff like that. So that's true as well.
That makes me think that, so you know how, like we were talking about like guilt and shame earlier, you know, so living a certain way, depending on what kind of culture and society you live in, you know, so like in our society, we're kind of encouraged to think that if you don't spend a certain amount of the week working a certain amount of time, you're not an accomplished, competent,
I hate that,
you know, fully developed person. And so the whole, so like kind of sound like you're saying like we're all humans, but even though we're all humans, we're not necessarily all the same animal of human.
No. Yes.
And so
we're a different expression.
So if you have this genetic blueprint, you know, some, like we said, like and we've worked with them. Some of the people that were in the call centers you and I lasted 2 weeks in were there 5 years before us, and they're still there now. And they don't really have much of a big problem with that. But so the guilt and the shame is this byproduct of not truth. So it's not true that if you work less than me, then I'm a more accomplished person than you. But I would feel motivated to project that out, because you doing whatever you do with your time to honor yourself challenges my concept of the way I spend my time.
And there's jealousy involved.
Yeah. So I might
they're not
be
allowed
able
to
to
do
lean
that.
on certain paradigm, certain things relevant to whatever paradigm of belief I've got. So if you work less than me, well, what does that mean? He's got more time. He's got more freedom. But I've got more money than him.
Yeah, so I'm better. I'm doing better, because then they go around the people that echo that, and they all stand around in their suits or whatever and go, oh, well, how much did you bank this week? 6,000. Oh, well, I was 14 and we're King Dicks, like
I
it's
think
like
once you get to a certain age and a certain education on life and looking, when you realize everybody is just as terrified as everybody else of how well they're living their life, you then realize that I'm not being judged for what I do. I'm being tricked into thinking I'm being judged, but it's actually just somebody else trying to maintain permission from themselves to carry on doing what they're doing, which is probably all fine.
Because they may have built a life that requires an income because of, I don't know, pressures on themselves, pressures of society, pressures from a partner, pressures from children, pressures from whatever, to say, we need to have all these things. I need a better car. I need this. I need that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, because I've spent a lot of time in the past by myself without a calendar for a month, say, like this, I feel like everyone should do, well, not everyone, but it can benefit certain types of people. And it benefited me to be basically be in a living situation where, when I was probably 21 or something, I was living with my mum. And, she would go off to work from 9 to 5, and I would receive some money from, a source. And it wasn't much, but it was enough to like have everything I needed and save a bit. This has gone back many years, obviously. But I remember waking up one morning and, being young and fairly fit and whatever, and just going, so in the next 2 to 4 weeks, I've got 2 appointments that I have to go to. The rest of it is my time to do literally whatever the fuck I want to do. And then walking around in nature. I mean, I've got enough money to buy like maybe 2 pies a week, or, get this can of tuna or something. It's like, but you might waltz to the beach and it's empty because it's like 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning.
Is the can of tuna a luxury item?
Well, it has been when I've been in real dire straits in life. But that's another good story, actually, when I was in Melbourne and I was living on a couple of dollars a day before I went on tour.
Which is a good point. A can of tuna should be a luxury item.
It's heaps good food. Like, it's a lot of food. And just quickly on that, when I was in Melbourne and I was sitting down in a park eating from a can of tuna, I saw people walk past me and be like, oh, poor guy, thinking like I was homeless. And that was a really interesting experience too, because I realized like, oh, that doesn't feel good. And I gave more to homeless people of my shrapnel when I was on $2 or $4 a day than I did when I had more money. It's like, because I was more on their level. It's interesting. So, but let's say I'm walking around, and obviously not everyone's in a position to do this. I'm just saying this is the thing about, like, one time I was walking in the sand dunes in Port Noarlunga. I was listening to Devin Townsend, and I realized, because there was these little like ferret marmoty things running around, these little flightless birds, and you could hear them going on, and it was like nice, and there was a bit of a breeze, and the beach was there, and I was just like, oh, I'm fine. Like, this all works. I've got food in my bag. The house is within walking distance. My bills are enough paid that my car's registered and everything. I've got minimal ability to continue to live. And I think I was probably 29 at the time or whatever. And I was like, and I'm still relatively young and everything works and I feel calm. everything's fine. Like it literally was. And I knew my family was okay and my friends were okay and all this sort of thing. No one was in hospital. No, you know, it's like all the basic things were sorted. And I was like, and I have the ability and the kind of mind, and I'm not addicted to any substances, and I'm not, you know, I can go and get jobs later and push and blah, blah. But that's just this moment. And I just had this really nice walk, just being like, just do this now. For as long as you can. And then of course you go back home and there's the rego on the fridge. And you're like, oh, yep, it's coming up. Yep. Oh, the bill. And then your housemate's like, yeah, the electricity bill came in. It's pretty big. Like, and it shows you, and you're all back into that mode of real, I won't call that real life, but it's modern life. But you can have as much of that. See, I've never been the type of person who could work full time and then have 4 weeks off a year, take a holiday and just sit on a beach and go, yep, I'm enjoying myself and this is good. It's like sometimes you wake up and you're just like, I need to go here and do this and I need to be in the mountains. I need to do this.
My experience of I managed to do it long enough to get to the holiday, you know, like long enough to get to that holiday, the time off a holiday, whatever, which probably was only really 6 months. But then going on the holiday, and then the holiday for me, and this is my problem, no one else's problem. The holiday for me was I've got 5 days until I go back to work.
Yes, I know. I had that with full time when I was on the weekends. I started to relax about the Saturday evening for a little bit. And then the Sunday was stress and anxiety until the Monday because I was doing something different to what I should be doing with my life. That's the other thing is like identifying that you can force yourself into that. If you're a square peg and you're forcing yourself into the round hole, you force it. But there'll be fallout. Like I had a couple of panic attacks, a couple of anxiety issues when there. I remember sitting once out on the step after working when I was working full time. And I was just like, I couldn't see anything properly. I was just focusing on some gravel. And then someone came out and they were like sitting there like, you're right, man. I'm like, oh, I don't really know what's going on. Like, and I was gone, like, because of the amount of stress and because you push it back, like the stress is building up and you're going, no, I'm fine. Oh, just another coffee. No, it's all good. Oh, how many more appointments? Oh, 4, squeezing them in. Oh, that person's sick. I'll take theirs as well. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, bring it on. And you deal with it. Then there's that fallout. And it's like, yeah, especially if you're not that kind of person. Some people can handle it. Some people love it, and that's good. And I can handle it to the point that I can handle it. So yeah, so it's a tough one. But as long as you're using the time you've got outside of work effectively, because that's the other thing I've realized is like if I sit down to play a video game now, I get a little bit cagey and I'm like, I should be practicing. Because I should be pushing the thing that will get me the most happiness later. Or I should be lifting weights, or I should be doing something like running or whatever.
Is that like your Nate? Like if you spend too much time on whatever you're trying to nurture, your nature just demands you.
Yeah, I guess. And like one thing for me is relaxation's a problem, and it's tough. Even having had the medication, which is the hormone that helps you sleep, didn't always work for me because of the work I've done with willpower, like being able to control and wrangle my mind, and I've
you were doing super young, like back when we were coming out of high school, you were messing around with sleep deprivation.
Well, that's another thing. That is a form of, and this is interesting because this comes from observing some forms of alcoholism with people close to me and going, I don't want to be like that because these people get angry when they drink. And then going, well, I'm going to go in a different direction, which led to music and games and computers and being up late, which led to sleep deprivation, which is also an altered state. Like tired high. It's a thing.
It's psychedelic.
It's really interesting. Especially when you learn your limits of it, because and I've not intentionally experimented, but experimented with having, 4 hours of sleep a night or 2 hours of sleep a night and things like that. And the thing I've noticed it does for me, for my brain, is I'll become way more like, I just don't think about what I'm going to say as much or what I'm going to do. And I flow with it. Because let's say I'm an overthinker, and when I've had a lot of sleep, I'm constantly checking myself and like, oh, don't say that. If you're standing in the line and someone goes, it's taken a while today, and I've had 9-10 hours sleep, and I'm, when I'm 23, and I'll just go, oh yeah. But I really wanted to say, yeah, bloody slackasses here, aren't they? And like get a conversation going and have a bit of an interaction because it's going to pass the time better. But I don't, because I'm like, no, don't say that because you shouldn't say that. You know what I mean? But if I haven't slept, I'll just instantly be like, yeah, man, this is bullshit, And then like it becomes this, it's this I found, and But then, of course, you can get addicted to that feeling, push it too far. Your self-care becomes a problem. Obviously, there's a certain point where your motor skills don't work as well, and things like driving cars, and it's similar to, well, it's not actually very similar to substances, but it's more just like one of these things where, like, the worst I ever got was, because I'll do this thing because this came from being on tour as well, because that was 2 or 3 hours sleep a night, because you've played the show, you're on high, you have some drinks, you party, you get to your hotel,
you're not in
or whatever,
quiet space until at least 1 or 2,
and then there's bands playing elsewhere until probably 3, and you've got there's all these people you've just met, and it's like, it's crazy, it's good. But I was so excited on the one tour I did of 3 shows back in 2014, I think it was, or 15, that I didn't sleep leading up to it because I was so excited. Because I'm like, this is what I need to be doing with my life. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then
how was you playing?
It was actually okay.
Yeah.
But that's the ability to and because I'd had experience with that state of mind. Because one of the things I had was like, I'm worried that if I go too far with this, I'll damage my brain or whatever. But I'd seen a doctor who'd said, I said, what's the worst thing that can happen if you don't sleep much? He's like, well, you'll feel like crap until you do.
Right. Hang on a sec. I think we're having an echo issue.
Dem X again.
Let me I don't really know what to do about that one, man. Let's just have a look at your pretty face for a second. Oh, echo tree.
Far away inside. Echo tree. Being a little bitchy tree. Echo tree, what you do? Oh, I don't know if I fully covered this before, but I wanted to say, when you're young, or even some people when they're older.
I know when I'm young because I still am.
Well, you're only as old as you feel.
Echo. See, Kira, apparently the echo was just Neeks is watching from uni.
Oh yeah.
Neeks has an echo, but Kieran Lundy does not have no echo.
There you go.
So, Demo, you might be hearing it come out of your laptop and in your headphones at the same time somehow, perhaps.
Coodle bees.
Anyway.
So, like, when you're young, right, especially in high school, and you're worried, like, one thing I liked about you, Shaun, as a person, you always seem to be yourself, or you seem to be confident and not give as many fucks about what people thought of you.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, that's true.
Yep.
Right? I have always been outwardly myself. One thing that was probably not made very obvious, and I've noticed this, right? So, okay, so full disclosure, a while back I tried DMT and I videoed myself in that experience, right?
Whoa.
And I remember at the time during the experience being fucking terrified and thinking that Neeks was sitting for me.
Yep.
And so I remember thinking at the time, I'm so terrified by what I'm experiencing right now, and Neeks must be really worried because I must look like I'm really terrified and having a horrible time. When I watched back the video, I was calm, cool. My voice was like chilled. I'm relaxed.
That's
on the outside. And so I was the same at school.
There you go. You're projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So so that doesn't mean, so I'm not saying that my persona in school was fake. It was legitimate. I was just being myself all the time because I can't help it. But I was terrified of everyone and everything. So I still, even though on the outside everyone was like, I remember one time in homeroom, someone made some comment or something, and one of my mates was like, oh yeah, but everybody likes Shaun. And one of my other mates was like, well, why? Well, yeah, they do. And why should he feel bad about being likable? Anyway, the amount of people that liked me. So I was a popular, uncool person at school that had lots of friends, lots of relationships with people, but I was still just as fucking terrified as everyone else.
You know what's so funny about this is I remember what I was like back then, and I was quite sure of myself internally, but very unsure of myself externally. So the reason I brought all that up is because it's
polarity.
Like, yeah, and that's like that. Do we have like the orbiting thing? Sometimes we used to say like synchronized orbits because we were like opposites but the same.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, something interesting. So like for instance, as an example,
like we were inseparable, but fundamentally quite different, except in our interests. Our interests were the same. But we were polarized people.
Because I think I just worked it out is that I've always been solid inside, but not been confident enough to project what is inside out confidently and authentically until recently. And you were just saying you were terrified inside, but you were externally able to do whatever, you know, to great, some of the best times. And some of the, I'll be honest, some of the things that have got me through my hardest times recently, it's been going back and listening to the recordings we made.
Yeah.
Because you are full Shaun.
Yeah.
There's no filter, and it's amazing. Like because of that, because obviously we grew up together and stuff, and we had the different friendship circles and MD crew and all that, which was great. It was like I would hang out with you and you'd act the way I wish I could. And then I had, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I had like this morality and this, you know, sense of like what's right and what's wrong and always doing the right thing that you kind of maybe.
Well, you actually brought me down to earth a lot.
Yeah.
Back then, you know, like you'd kind of like whoa, buddy. You know?
Yeah. Because that's where I was like, I always have had a very strong sense of morals and, you know, nobility, let's say, and all that sort of thing, which came out in the early attempts at romance.
You did none of the naughty stuff.
Yeah.
While we were in school.
Yeah. But I wanted to.
You did?
That's part of the reason I wanted to hang out with you is because he just says it, and he does, and I was always sitting back just laughing about things that you did and said, and we'd egg each other on a bit. But it was like, it was just one of those things where, you had the confidence and the fun. Like I remember in high school, I don't know if we had made friendship yet, but I'd see you and JT walking around, and you'd be making each other laugh and stuff, and you'd be like Batman and Robin kind of thing, just like hanging out. And you were this super confident force through school, and, you know, singer, musician, total like, you know how there's cool guys that are trying to be cool, and they're like, they get the sunglasses and like the dude who pushes all the tables out and does karate moves in the fucking common room and stuff. But there's that kind of cool, which is a try hard cool. But then there's just someone who's just cool. And as a young person, you see that. And I was all like, you know, I was a bit chubby and I was all like introspecting. I was like, I want to hang with them. They're cool. Like, they're cool guys, but not because they were try hard cool, because they were literally funny and interesting and whatever.
Yeah.
So, and then that came, and there was times before that with Dwayne and all this sort of thing. But anyway, all this, there's a lot. But the thing was, it's interesting because even like the first time I kissed a girl was facilitated by you in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Because you already had a girlfriend. You know, I think a hot little blonde thing, and there was this girl I liked who was a brunette, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I was kind of like, I remember standing with her at a lunchtime and just standing, holding hands and saying barely anything. And it's like, what do I do? And then when it was time to, remember they called it scamming? Scamming. Yeah. And when it was time to do that, I always wore a hat because I was always like, oh, I've got to cover, I'll wear a hat.
Yep.
And you were like, man, as you were walking up to me, like giving me a pep talk, like, man, take your hat off because it kind of gets in the way. I was like, yeah, right, no worries. And as soon as you'd left, I put the hat back on and walked up to her and just kind of went on an angle. And but it was really, really interesting how that came about. But it's like,
is that Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. If you're out there, lover, no,
give us a bell.
A bell. That's interesting too.
Yeah.
Ooh, ding. Anyway, so fucking universe. So so welcome to the. No, it's all right. It says welcome to the museum, but anyway. So let's get back down to earth. So we've got all that, and I've slowly built myself, because it's like I could see how much of a thing I had to deal with in terms of a personality and a thought process and a
fear.
Lots of fear in back in the day, but because I wanted to get things right, because my standards were high. So that's one of the things about, I used to feel really safe in front of a computer in a room by myself with music and stuff, because I had a sense of control. It was like sitting in there, I can control these characters and these things on the screen. I can, you know, be a good person or a bad person in a game and to help hurt and destroy and be good and evil. Blah. And it was like, that was my time. And then of course getting into drumming, like of course you're hidden behind the kit, but you're the loudest thing in the room. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I will be heard, but I don't have to speak.
Yeah.
So that was what I used to be like. Whereas now I'm just like, we'll just use words. It's easier.
Yeah.
You know,
that's interesting though, because when you did that, that was like one of those, you know, that saying like, what, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
Once you started drumming in high school, everything changed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I was good at something.
Well, yeah, but like the way everybody perceived you changed.
Yep.
Totally changed.
Yeah, right.
And it had nothing to do with, because there were other drummers and stuff in our school that were like pretty good drummers and whatever, but they were they were cooler guys than us. They wore better clothes.
Oh yeah, and
they had the look. We didn't have the look.
Yeah, and they were a bit older and stuff. Yeah, totally.
But your drumming was so good, undeniably good in school that like everybody just went, everyone just gave you permission all of a sudden, you know, like, like there's Alan. And the reason that I find that really interesting is, so getting back to the whole, like, you were talking about the blueprint earlier.
Yep.
You know, we're talking about like these different optimal ways. Like it might be optimal for one person to work in a call center. It might be optimal for another person to have lots of spare time because they will kind of randomly disperse themselves across the time they've got and make a whole bunch of stuff because they're just, you know, they can't lock them down for long. Anyway, so my whole thing is, and when you're talking about like, so one example I want to use is, because we're renting, the house we were in before this one, like can happen in renting, all of a sudden, you know, what was meant to be a long-term rental turned into, you've got like a month or whatever to get out of here because we're selling the house, we're demolishing the house, etc. You know, so which you can really stress out and go, oh, we've only got this much time to find a house. The alternative is, if we don't find a house in time, we'll have nowhere to live. And I've got 3 children, you know, and so there's that moment where it's like I could start freaking out, but I know that I live in a culture, in a society that even if it means that like I don't get to necessarily live in like the house that I would if I'd had more time spending to try and figure out, you know, no, this one or that one, like, you know, let's just try and get the right fit. It was just came down to, I need a house. It's a necessity. I can stress about it or not. One thing is unchangeable. It needs to happen. So it just will.
It just will.
It just will. I'm going to need a place to live. So no matter, even worst case scenario, even if I end up moving my family in with my parents while we figure it out,
you'll find
we need somewhere to stay. So somewhere to stay will happen.
Yes.
And so then I think there's that same thing about in that moment in high school where all of a sudden you hopped on the drums and everyone went, there's Alan. That was your blueprint. It's part of your blueprint is being a drummer. Absolutely. You know, like you were just born to play drums.
And I think there's a lot of things to it. There's like, I like watching the whole gig. So I like being, it's best seat in the house because you're controlling the tempo of people's movement. You're actually watching everyone else who's in the band. And the only people behind you is your techs, if you've got techs. And so it's like, I've thought of it like this. Like I love watching everyone that I care about be the happiest they can be. And one of the things about metal extreme people is it takes a lot for them to feel good. Well, you know, I'll speak for myself. It takes a lot of things falling into place in the right way for me to feel content or complete or whatever. One of those things is when the gig goes well. And you have, like, obviously you want the funds and everything, all the monetary concerns to work out and all the planning and stuff. But when you have a good set and you see, all right, they're on form, and everyone, and it just works, you're like, that's wicked. And that's something of a family thing as well. It's like a band family and you all do this thing together. It's really cool. But one thing about the, I want to say about the drumming was like, the way it came about wasn't me joining a music class and someone going in 4 counts and then you read along the thing, because I didn't like that. I was like, I started drumming with sticks on the carpet and on mattresses and stuff. Right?
But even then, so even on the mattress, right? Even hanging out with you when we were 11,
it's instinct
at your house, watching you play on your mattress and pillows with drumsticks.
Fear Factory.
It was clear that you are a drummer. Without the kit. The kit didn't even need to be there. And so the cool thing about this, right,
environment drumming.
And this is why when you started playing drums in school, it was such this big identifiable moment, because once you and I, because we did establish ourselves as musicians in school, that became a huge part of our identity and everybody knew that about us. But And I have no problem saying that I myself was born to be a musician. That is my blueprint, in the same way that playing drums is being a musician or being a creator is your blueprint too,
So
right?
true.
Now, one of the reasons that identity was accepted for us in school is because no one could deny it.
Yeah.
No one could deny
Proof
it.
was in the pudding.
So someone doesn't even have to like the kind of music you play. All they've got to do is see you play, and no one will tell you that you're meant to do anything else.
Because there's an authenticity to it. Because if you're literally doing it and it's coming from somewhere truthful, that comes through even if there are mistakes, even if there are...
And even the shittiest, drunkest, or whatever, like whatever state of mind someone's kind of in, there's got to be very few states of mind where someone could see someone doing what they are clearly meant to do and deny them that. Yeah. It's very, very hard to do. So like, true, basically what I'm saying is, as long as I keep singing, as long as you keep drumming, people will let you.
I know.
And in fact, people will even go out of their way to make sure you get to keep doing it. People, like, and here's why, because the person that is optimized to work in a call center still fucking loves music, man. Yep. And they don't want to stop you from doing that because they can't do it. So why would they stop you from doing something that, you know,
or even more tragic, they could do it, but they haven't let themselves give it a go.
Yeah. It's like have you seen The Big Lebowski?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so at the end when he's like, don't you all feel better knowing that the dude is out there taking it easy for all us sinners?
Yes.
You know, and basically, I think what he was saying was our sin is that we deny our blueprint.
Yeah.
And the dude don't. Yeah. The dude abides.
And the dude abides. And it's like, it's a compartmentalizing thing too. Just quickly, I try to look at every aspect of my life, like professional life, career, bands, friends, emotions, self-care, caring for others, as like, you know, like a graphic EQ, how you've got all these levels. And it's like everything should be at, you know, obviously it'd be great if everything was optimal, but you do more of one thing and something else goes down. Like you do a whole bunch of music and touring, you're not looking after those you care about because you're off in other places. You only look after those you care about. You're not doing what you really, really love doing. So it's like, you got to balance it all. But one thing I want to say about the music thing, the way that came about was, I didn't join a class. I actually said to the music teacher, Mr. Winter, this is my memory of it anyway, is can I just get in a lunchtime and play? Yeah. And he was like, no, you have to be part of the class. And he sort of was dismissive. He was on yard duty, you know, walking around. I kept pestering him like, can I just play? There's no one in there now. Yeah. Can I just play? And eventually he went, all right, here you go. Here's the keys.
Which is understandable because it's the equivalent of someone coming up to you and me at our gig and going, can I have a go, man?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, you can't.
You know, and because I was persistent, he was like, all right, look. And I think this is my memory of it. I hope I haven't made this up, but is like I got in and played at one lunchtime, and just because because I have to do things my way. This is the thing. I have to figure it out myself. When I was young and someone was trying to go, and I was taking my time, and they'd just pull it off me and go, you do it like this, and you do this, and this is the next step. Come on, get it, kick your head around it. I'd just be heaps angry. I'm like, I want to figure it out my way. Yeah. Which you can't always do. Obviously, sometimes you need direction. But jumped in, played, and he heard it, and he went, you've got to join the music class. Yeah. And I went, really? Okay, sort of thing. Because I just wanted to play. I didn't care about like learning samba beats or learning this beat. I just wanted to play drums. So that's an interesting thing about knowing what kind of person you are too. Because some people really need direction in their life. They need someone saying like, get up, do this, go here. This is your next step, go to uni, blah, blah, blah. But I always wanted to figure out my life and work it out my own way. Not to say that there isn't good influences and I should listen to people more. I definitely should, because a lot of people are trying to tell me things that will help me if I listen, and I just need to be open to that. But it's like the other thing about music,
sometimes I think that's just because we're not done listening to whatever thing we're currently listening to, you know. We haven't quite seen the results of what we're doing now enough just yet.
And something being your idea, this is funny too, because like I've had times where someone will be telling me something, often, you know, it might be a partner, it might be a friend or someone at work or whatever, and I'm not listening to it because I don't like the way they're telling me. And then a friend can say it in a different way. It's the same damn thing. But I'll actually go, that's a good idea, and start doing it. And then the person who's been telling me for months is like, I've been trying to tell you that for so long. But it's like, yeah, but you were telling me in a way that was going to make me do it because you were going to make me do it.
Well, you were telling me in a way that made me stupid if I did anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or like, it's something about that. But it's like, the other thing about being music in school is like I thought I'll get good at as many styles as I can so I can play more. So I got good at playing ensembles with violins and playing blues and all, because I just wanted to play rock
You were
music.
doing everything.
But I got asked to do, it's like, do you want to play school assembly with all these violins? And I'd go, yep, what's the song? Oh, Casey Chambers or whatever it was, you know, something basic.
Yeah.
That wasn't the artist, but there was something with violin.
The
The Cause. It might have been The Cause. Yeah, yeah. And I thought, oh, that's a basic rock beat. There's a little bit of something here. No worries. That's like a piece of toast for me. It's not that hard. So, but I get to play. You know, I get to play
because I got to see you do all these things. You treated each one of those experiences with the same amount of artistic integrity. Like you loved playing it just as much as anything.
I wanted to get it right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I have about life is like, I want to get it right in every way. So if something's not optimal, I need to find a way to make it optimal. So the other thing was, you know, obviously the different styles came into it. And in my year 12, you know, examination was playing New Millennium Cyanide Christ by Meshuggah. You know, you know, very fast kicks and whatever. That was Bleed, but you know, different song. But the thing was, I played that to parents and whatnot because I put the song through the PA and just played it with the double kick pedal that I'd bought. And you know, most people are sitting there going, whew, oh, that was a lot. But then like one dad at the back's like, yeah, that was sick. Yeah, no, good stuff, man. And, you know, like, and it didn't matter that it wasn't well received because that's where I was at in my musical evolution at 17 or 18. And it's like, and that just felt good to, and, you know, I got an A for it, I think, or a B+ or whatever from Mr. Winter. And because he understood that there was stuff going on there. And he was really, really helpful because he got that guy in because we all didn't learn in a normal way.
Yeah.
And he got a guy in.
Ian.
Was it Ian or Colin or someone?
Oh, Colin.
Yeah. To
Long
basically,
hair.
Who was a cool older musician.
Yeah.
To go, all right, guys, you got talent. Let's actually apply it in the way that you'll understand.
He was kind of a producer.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what he came in and did. He was like, well, he came in and acted as like a musical director. Yeah.
But he got us on track a bit. And if we'd been with there was another music teacher there who was very much like, you know, at the 4 and then you look at the writing and the blah, blah, blah.
Mrs. Brunner.
Yeah. And that's fine because some people learn that way and they need that strictness. But it didn't work for me.
I remember playing Smash Mouth. I was playing drums in Smash Mouth in the year 9 band or whatever. And at the end, we played it like 12 times or whatever. And I remember getting bored or whatever and I finished the song and I just did this ridiculous like and as soon as I was finished, she just goes, how dare you? How dare you?
And I love
how dare you?
You've ruined the whole show.
Yeah.
And there's like people crying in the front row.
Here to rehearse. And you value their time like that.
Oh my God. And then the best time though was when they had like the main music room and there was the second room with all the art supplies and all the old things. And then we ended up like smuggling some old instruments in there and just had some time in there to just go nuts with Mill and Colin and like, you know, some 41 and some of the old.
But it would be us doing that and then like Jacob in the corner pissing on some foam heart that's being made for the rock and roll of Stedford. You know, like I think he also lost his virginity in there.
Oh my God, that doesn't surprise Jacob Volcano. Oh man, he was a loose unit,
legend,
but a great guy.
Yeah,
loved him. Yeah, but he was almost too much for me. Like I was like kind of like slightly scared by him, but also wanted to be his mate, but also a little bit.
Well,
like,
he was even more confident than me.
Dude, he was alpha male confident. But like
he's built like Dwayne the Rock Johnson now.
That's amazing. It's bringing up all these people like, you know, and Luke and like oh, dude. And I see the faces. Like I can't remember all the names, but all the personalities. And this is what's great about school is that it's a melting pot for you and your self-development in the sense like I would be challenged out of my shyness and out of my cocoon of self-reflection and, you know, all that stuff into these situations. And I remember a few times like actually when the real me of whatever it was in that scenario coming out because it was forced to come out and like defending myself or being, you know, whether it's mentally or physically or whatever. And there's like things I wish I would have done differently and all this sort of thing. It's like, imagine if you could go back to then with the confidence and the knowledge you have now. It's like, whoa.
I would run that joint.
Dude, it would be amazing. Like the time, there's this, I don't know if this is worth bringing up or not, but there was a time like you were making some friends with some older guys and stuff. And we all started hanging out, and I was sitting down. I was quiet because I was like a little bit chubby as well. One of them, just some dickhead, was just like, oh, here you go, mate. And just like, remember Sandboy chips, you could get the packets of flavoring.
Yeah.
And he just poured it on my head,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't react. I just went, oh, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And I always think I should have just stood up and be like, but then we would have probably had a fight. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, there's ways now with psychology, I could have put him in his place.
Yeah.
Because he was being a jerk.
Yeah.
But then I think about it, I'm like, all that really came out of that.
Small fish though, because we were there.
Totally.
It was our like first year in high school. We're that tiny fish as well. And we got zero attention from girls, you know, like, because it's a shitty transition going from primary school to high school, because you go from being the big fish to the tiniest fish. If you are if you have any sort of, well, I mean, everybody does, but if it gets boiled down to this, it's more important that I let these guys hang out with me and be dickheads to me than to not be seen with enough people.
Yep. And that's like the social hierarchy thing. And I have this really interesting, I've really tried to make a comedy thing about this, and I don't think I've done it yet, but being a musician, right? Everyone in the school had to sit in assembly and watch the music. You know, that was part of assembly, and you have to sit quietly, and, you know, now and again, the din was pierced by someone from Seawinds actually making some contribution, which was always very good as well.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the difference is what I'm getting at is that, say you're a sports person and you're going to show yourself and be strong and then tackle people, and, you know, you might break your leg, unfortunately, or you might get an injury, or you might snap your wrist or something. And then it's like, okay, you've been a tough guy, cool. I could never get into that because I was always like, I want to maintain the body to be able to play fast and be able to, you know, so like I had this thought about this juxtaposition between being a musician or a sports person, because both are confident exercises where people watch you, and they, you know, especially if you're trying to attract females and stuff, they get to see you do something cool and be confident. And that's like an attractive thing. And it's like the difference between, like, obviously it's brave to be a sports person, don't get me wrong. But it's like, you know, if you've just done your sport and you're in a social setting and you've got like a big bandaged up arm, or, you know, your leg's busted up and you're like, hey, John, how you going? Kind of thing. It's like the difference for the musician is you're physically fine. You're sage because you've got through some emotional stuff through your music, and you've been able to express yourself, and people are still attracted to you, but you're fine. Do you know what I mean? It's like what one has more, let's say, influence or is more desirable, like the person who's not injured themselves at all, or the person that would potentially be injured, or is that manly
sometimes
too?
I
don't
think
know.
It's always context, right? So
for sure.
Because I'm a professional performer, but not a celebrity.
There you go.
Right. So while I'm performing, I get treated like a celebrity.
Yep.
You know, the second I finish performing, people come up to me, like girls will approach me and try and pick me up or whatever, usually older women.
Yep.
Who are very forceful, might I add,
isn't it?
My God.
Yep.
Man, the things that some older women have whispered into my ear.
Oh,
anyway,
yep.
I have around about a 10-minute window, right? So once I finish the gig, there might be a couple of hundred people or whatever. They've all had a great night. We're all cheering. There's like a sea of faces in front of me, a bunch of girls dancing, trying to get my attention. The gig finishes. Some of them might come over in a little group and talk to me or whatever. As soon as I start packing up my stuff, I immediately transition from he's like a celebrity type person to he's just the guy that packs up the shit.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that attention is gone.
How funny are people to think, and this, I've always found this fascinating and just been like, this is so dumb, is when someone, like a lot of people, if they've seen someone on TV, if they've seen them on TV, even if they don't like them, even if they think they're a bit of a jerk, and then they see them out in the world, or politicians, they're just, or someone's got a poster of their face, people will start treating them with reverence or with some sort of greater. It's like, what are you doing? That guy got up and took a shit this morning just like you did.
But some of those, did you mention politician?
Yeah, anyone who's in a position of like media or you know,
as long as they suit it, as long as it seems to be their blueprint though.
Yeah,
you know
if they're 100% behind
like
it and they're confident.
If you suck, there aren't people gathering in front of you throwing their admiration at you.
True.
Like you have to, I think it pretty much has to be an example of the blueprint realizing itself.
Yeah, and it's like some people will use confidence but not have ability. So if you ever worked for a manager who's all like, "Yep, we're going to do this and this and this," and you're thinking in your head, that's not going to work. Like he hasn't thought this through, and then you go to do it and you do everything they ask and it fails, but they go, "Oh, no, it's all good," and they just power ahead with confidence, but they're fucking stupid or you know, whatever. I'm being a little bit too over the top, but it's like I've worked for people before and just thought, you've got the confidence, that's fine, but you don't have the ability, or you're not backing it up with truth. Or you're not backing it up with, you know, it's like I've always thought if I'm in a situation, and it works when the people in the positions of power are actually the right person for that job, and they do know what the best thing is to do. And it's like when they're not, it can be hard, because if you see it running a certain way or being different, and you know that it will work that way, or you assume it will until you play it out and the proof comes from the result. Yeah. It's like it's really hard to work for others who kind of don't like see the whole big picture, or they keep making decisions like that. And obviously it's supposed to be that people in those positions eventually lose their job and blah blah blah, but because of politics and social, and this guy knows that guy and keeps the job, and it's this whole thing. I mean, people go on about this a lot, but it's I think even outside of that, how you can control yourself in that is don't get caught up in that game.
Yeah.
Build yourself as an individual. Build your, because you've got your plan.
Find your
life.
blueprint.
Yeah.
Part of the problem. So there's also people out there that are like, man, I wish I had a thing like that. You know, like, so some people think that they are resigned to stick to the grind because they're like, well, I don't have a talent. You know, I don't have a talent or a thing that makes me or whatever. And it's like, you probably. Look, it's probably not one of the ones that you might fantasize about, but if you actually gave yourself a little bit of time and credit, you might find that
everyone's good at something.
Yeah.
And even if it's not creative or whatever, someone might be really good at organizing. Someone might be good at archiving. Someone might be good at maths, or, you know, there's something. And even if it's just they have all these, they know all the Simpsons quotes, you know, that's not like exactly a usable skill, but it still means you know more than someone else. Yeah. And it's something
someone's
you can be proud
rape.
of. Jesus Christ.
It's someone's job to be the rapist.
And rapists.
Yeah.
Well. Just like,
it's the blueprint.
Oh my God.
Even bats get raped.
Well, it's funny because nature's fucked in the sense that, like, I think Louis C.K. covered this in terms of, like, you know, most animal sex is rape. It's just the male forcing themselves on the female, and the female develop, like ducks have two
ironic
vaginas
that
and
he
stuff.
said that though. Like,
yeah, true, I guess. But like, there's this thing about, like, there's the fake duck vagina. Do you know about that?
No.
Well, ducks have two. I think this is true. This is my memory of it, and I have to say that because a lot of my facts are things I've heard from different sources. But basically, like, it's like, if the duck wants to be inseminated, it will use the real one. If it doesn't, there's this like cavernous one where it makes the male duck think it's going in the right one, but it just goes to like a chamber and then just gets something like that. Yeah. Well, because nature, like nature, you think about, like, if we were in tribes and stuff, obviously men have more physical strength and blah, blah, blah. It's like men a lot of the times would just grab women and just be like, here, come here, kind of thing. Which obviously,
Vikings.
Yeah, well, yeah. And there was so much rape back in the day. And it's like, it's not a good thing, obviously, but it was literally just a case of physical strength, you know. And also men, so we're getting into, I guess, not dangerous territory, but territory where it's like, there's so much nuance, and we've evolved as a species to the point now where we know that's not the right way to live. That I just don't want to say something that's going to make someone think that I'm in any camp, because I literally don't live in a camp. I like to listen to all ideas and then formulate my own opinions. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I think we get kind of pushed around a little bit here though, because unfortunately, if you start talking about ideas, people believe that you're starting to advocate for bad things.
You can't just explore ideas easily.
Well, people do the whole thing of like, you must be very black and white about these certain topics because we don't want anyone to get the wrong idea, as though anybody that's raping hasn't already become aware of the fact that they shouldn't do that.
Yeah, then maybe they haven't evolved to that point. Yeah. Or they don't have the information to know why that's not optimal to do that.
Well, the people that are receiving the most education on this weren't rapists.
Yeah,
you know,
so it's reinforcing something they probably already know.
Well, I mean, like sometimes some people rape because they know it's wrong.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, doing the wrong thing.
They're not accidentally raping, thinking that like, you know, like, oh shit, I just didn't. Fuck, man, I didn't see that episode of The Project. You know, like
I didn't hear her when she was saying stop. I just couldn't. I just had headphones in, man. I didn't. You know, no, of course they
all
know
of my
wrong.
mates.
They
like,
know it's
when
wrong,
my
yeah.
mates and that we joked about it. Like, you know, they said it was all right. Like,
well, they did it a lot. You know, no, that's interesting too, because sometimes people they'll do a certain behavior. And rape's a really extreme example, but something that's bad, whatever it is, treating people like shit, being a bully, whatever. And then they go and stand around their echo chamber, and I'll use an example of men having beers together. And then they'll be like, and then I said to him, yeah, you little squirt. And everyone laughs. And they think, oh, well, I'll keep doing that because my friends think I'm cool now. It's like, yeah, but like that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. You know,
yeah,
you've got to look at like,
anyone that's going to go and rape someone because of a joke you or I or anybody else made,
they had it in
needs more than our help anyway.
Totally. And that's like, it's interesting because I've had another note about facing inner truths, and it had nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but the the idea was that like say you're going around, because everyone's got what they say and what they don't say in the world. We've all got some inner secrets. For me, luckily, all of them are just, you know, how much I love people, right? Whoever that is. And obviously you can't, well, it's funny because another thing Peterson was saying is about live truthfully and be truthful all the time. Yeah. Like, can you imagine like that Jim Carrey movie where he's like, yes, man. He just says the truth all the time or whatever. Yeah. Like, can you imagine? It was something like that, but I just imagined what it would be like if I said what I was thinking, what I was feeling in every context without wanting results. Like if I was to say to a girl, she's beautiful. It's not like I'm like, so let's go sort of thing. It's more just like, I want you to know that I saw that and then I walk away.
It would be difficult at first, but I reckon the result would be you would then be surrounded by all of the people that accept you and none of the ones that don't.
Yeah, exactly. And well, yeah, and the thing is, fear is an interesting one because one of the reasons I've gotten into comedy and wanted to do more podcasting and do more things to flex that muscle of confidence is because when you've got an audience or even just person, when there's something to reflect back from you, what you're saying, and if it's from within, you're learning from that. So like, it's really good. I look at like comedy is a good one. Like you put out an idea and you make it funny or whatever you try to. But the reaction of the crowd will gauge you as to whether that is an accepted idea or not an accepted idea. And I see a lot with other comics is they'll put out something, they'll be misogynist or they'll be really rude or whatever. And you hear like, oh, you know, some people laugh at it because they're at that point in their life or whatever. And it's this really good cathartic, you know, experience of people confessing things, but also making light of the way things work. And but you get to, if you get up and do it yourself, similar with songs, very similar. You're actually putting out something authentic and then you're getting a reaction from a subset of people. Say it's 50 people in the room. And if it's a positive reaction, you're like, well, I'm kind of on the right track. There's enough people here that this is probably true. You know, like if you're singing about love being important, for example, is a very basic one. It's like then you're getting a good reaction. Yeah. And if you're singing about not being completely happy, which is what a lot of songs are about, or loving someone and it not working out, a lot of people relate to that, you know, or loving someone and not being able to make it work, or, you know, whatever it might be, a lot of it comes back to that because I think fundamentally love is abundance, whereas hate and all that is a lessening. So if you hate stuff, you destroy it, it becomes ash, it becomes dead, right? And then you've got out this certain energy and it's a reduction. If you love things, things grow. If you love your plants, you get more tomatoes, you get more things. If you love women, if you're a male, you make offspring, you know, like it's an abundance, it's a moreness.
So you mean like it's like love is generosity, hate is like trying to cling on to something you think you might lose, like, you know, like your desperate attempts to lash out and keep something that's yours, whether it be
it's jealousy,
like an opinion,
like ego.
Like, you know, like you want to keep an opinion. I want to keep this opinion. I hate everyone else that tries to make me fucking change it.
And I think hate's interesting because hate, like one of my favorite bands that helps me through a lot of the times is called Hate, and they're from Poland, and they're a blackened death metal band. And you listen to some of the lyricism, it's not about hate. It's a lot of anger. It's a lot of like basic, genuine, like male aggression. But that is sometimes the only thing that pierces through the storm of emotions that I go through to put me on track, because it's also fast, direct drumming. It's a lot of angular artwork, so a lot of like, you know, stars and sort of things that I guess it's like. And I think one of the things about males, or at least myself, I can speak for myself, is that things that are very direct and very like, you know, like metal implements or steel, or things that are very like sharpen my consciousness when I'm in that state. Whether it's like a blast beat, for example, or a, you know, drumming that's very piercing. So like you got a really pingy snare and a really, really pingy ride and a thick direct kick that's just like it's like a speed metal kick. That brings me into that moment and brings me into that tunnel of feeling, which is good. Sometimes you need that to get away from whatever you were dealing with. And I've sort of gone off track a bit, but the thing, hate. So it's like, if like you need, okay, so if you do that, you make a garden, you make a family, whatever, you need love to do that. And you always need love, but you also need ego to protect that from any outside source. So it's not that you have hatred for no reason, or you have aggression or power or any of those things for no reason. It's what you apply them when they're necessary.
Because sometimes the more certainty that you find in your little habitat, the more you project an idea of chaos outside it. You know, like the more comfortable things get in here,
the more you want to.
In contrast, it seems like things must be fucking messed up.
And the more you care about stuff, the more you want, like, are those locks good enough, or should I get more of this? And, you know, and so the other thing is, like, if you go full Buddhist, and I've been in this state of mind before when I'm a bit lost, is I've gone around and seen flies or seen, you know, spiders, and seen, I don't want to kill anything. I don't want to hurt anything. It all deserves to live. And then you're eating your food and something else is eating your food. And you realize, like, oh, if I died, all these bugs would eat me.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a bit of a, I do have to be fierce in the world. I do have to protect myself. I do need to kill things to survive.
Well, I'm trying to make that fly me. I'm trying to assume that fly has the potential to care about me as much as I do it.
It wouldn't give a fuck, because it would land on your eye and suck the juice out of your eyeball. And that's what they try to do when they're getting close to your eye, because they want the nutrients.
My decaying
cavities. Like, exactly. Like they'll go and suck from a piece of shit and then land on you if you've got an open wound, and suck from you and then infect your body. Like, they don't care. They're insects. So it's like,
and even if they were to do that, in the grand scheme of things, it was just what was meant to happen.
Well, kind of. And well, you could go full hippie with that, but then you find that you're not optimal. Your body's being compromised, and it's all true. Like, all these things are true in their own context. It's just a matter of navigating all those feelings and thoughts. But it's like the idea, because I've explored, like I said, I've explored different religions. I've explored Satanism. I've explored through lyricism. I've explored all these states. And one of the things is, like, you go there. You watch documentaries about Nazi Germany. You watch all these different things to see what humans are capable of. And then you go, that's not how I'm going to be. And here's why. And then you balance that. But that's the thing about threading the needle between good and evil. You need to know how potentially bad you could be in order to never do that. And so like with the fly thing, for example, it's like I get flies when I'm cooking, because I'm now living down south, and they're in the kitchen, and I think, I don't want you here. So I'll trap them, and I'll take them, or they'll get into the, you know, when you've got like an open window and the fly screen is there, and they get on the fly screen, you shut the window, you're like, you're fucked. And I will go and spray them or crush them and be like, and that experience obviously sounds pretty negative and pretty evil, right? But I think, like, well, you're invading my space. And you're never going to go to jail for killing a fly, right? But that energy I put out to kill that fly with spray or whatever, and watch its nervous system break down, and watch it struggle, and it tries to fly its wings again and it can't. And like, I have compassion for it. I do. I feel compassion. But then I say, but you have to die. Because you can infect my food. You can make me sick. And it's that you can take that stream of thought to extremes where you think that people don't deserve to live and all this sort of thing. Like, crazy people do that.
It's like
it's mental.
Well, so I think some people think that you plant that seed, you know, like even in the smallest levels from the fly, the death that you justifies greater death.
No, and it feels powerful. That's the other thing. It's like that's where control comes in, and regulation, and knowing when it is to apply that energy and when it's not. Like, if I feel angry for some reason, I'm going to probably be less amiable around people than I would normally be. And I'll be a little bit snappier. I'll be a little bit this. I'll be a little bit that. It's like my goal is to control and to be able to choose an emotion. This is obviously very like unlikely because we're still subject to the world, but choose an emotion, choose a reaction to a situation that gives the best optimal good for all involved in that situation, including yourself. But it's like knowing you're going to be okay. Like for instance, if I'm sleepy or tired, but it's 3 p.m. and I've still got work to do, it's like I'll have a coffee, even though I probably shouldn't push myself because there's more work to be done where I'm working, you know? So that's okay because I'll survive. I'm still young, I'm 33, you know, I'm not going to die from an extra coffee. But if I was all about me, I'd be like, well, I need to go to sleep now. So I just lay down and sleep in the middle of the room where I train people. And just, it's like, that's not, but I need to, but my body's tired. So, you know, it's like, you have to obviously balance it.
Yeah.
And that's the ridiculousness thing. Like that's the silliness thing. Sometimes when I'm in a situation that's very serious, I think of the silliest thing or the worst thing that could happen or whatever. And there's a pathology behind that. Like I've looked into that's a lot of people do that. It's like a form of potential self-sabotage, but it's also in order for you not to do it. It's like when you walk up to the top floor, and my first thought when I'm on a skyscraper is like, I could jump off. I could just jump off and just die. Whoa. Like, because that's your mind going, hey, don't do that. If you're not having that thought and you're just drinking and you're near it and you know, oh, everything's fine, I'm fine, and you fall off accidentally, that's way worse than having the thought and then not doing it.
Yeah.
Same when you're shaving. Like Jim Carrey had a good bit about this. He's like, you know, when you're shaving, you're right there. You could just cut yourself all over your face.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy to some people.
Yeah.
Because it is a crazy thought, but he is obviously Jim Carrey, and he went through that and he used that in his stand-up because it was a legitimate thing he experienced.
I think he's kind of saying, like, in any moment, whether you're on the top of a high-rise building or shaving in the mirror, we're on the ledge at all times.
Yeah, because when you're cooking and when you're eating, like, what do you use to eat? You use knives. All it takes is to just grab a knife and go, I'm done, bang, you know, which is not going to happen. But when you're aware of the fact that you could do anything, that's the power that, like,
which is why it shouldn't surprise us so much when sometimes people do.
It shouldn't, but we should know. This is why conversation and communication is so important, because you know when you have a conversation with someone, they start opening up a bit, and like it sucks when you don't have the time to really go deep with them, or they start to go deep and they pull themselves back, or they start to talk about something like a family member or some relationship that's not going well, and then so I'm just going to get another beer, you know. And they, like, especially men, they push that shit down, and then that's one of the problems of, you know, that's why I talk so much in a way, because it's like if I talk a lot and I'm always authentic to my friends, people will know where I'm at. Yeah. If I don't filter it, because I have filtered it before. I have held it all in and it doesn't really work.
Do you feel like at some point people get it though? You don't.
Some people get it. Some people get it.
Yeah.
Some people obviously are busy with their own lives. They don't want to hear it, and that's fair. Yeah. Like, I don't want to inflict it on people who don't want to hear it. Yeah. And that's I don't want people inflicting things on me when I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you've got an outlet, and that's where things like podcasting are great, because people get to choose if they want to hear it or not.
Yeah.
And but it's also just it's training your mind. It's being able to control your mind, but knowing what you need when you need it. Like if things are really bad, and knowing that, you know, I just can't go there today. I need to go here. I need to go to the beach. I need to see this family member. I need to see this friend. I need to do that. It's like, I like to think, well, even if they're busy, I can still handle it because I've got this music, I've got this, I've got that. But a lot of people will go, I need a beer. I need a drink. I need my benzos. I need my whatever it is, prescription medication. I need to reduce this feeling. But I'm like, that feeling is if you can conquer that, that's the lesson. That's the growth.
On the other side of that feeling
is some learning but if you keep pushing it all away and pushing the world away and being like, I'm just going to, and a lot of people do is they'll drink or they'll whatever, and they'll watch other people who are living their best life and being successful. Yeah. And then they'll go like, and then they worship. That's where the worship comes in. Yeah. And it becomes this, you know, people choose to be a fan of something, like a follower or a leader. Like if you're a leader, especially be a leader of your own life, at least be a leader of your own life. But some people in terms of jobs, or, you know, some people like rely heavily on managers. Some people are managers inside, but they're not quite there yet with their skills and stuff. It's just, so, but I've realized like in the last, you know, I've always been sort of a leader of myself personally.
Yeah.
But in terms of like my professional career, or like I want to develop into a leader, because I think that that's where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah.
When I know what's going to be happening and I like to plan it out and stuff like that. So
I don't think I've ever really seen you be a follower.
I just
I'm more of a follower than you am. Like back in I mean, one of the reasons I think that I was able to build a confident, like rounded, well-liked persona back in school was because I knew what to follow.
And I guess you knew how to be to get reactions from people too.
Yeah.
That's a skill, man. That's a really good skill to have. Whereas I was more like, I'll be me. If you don't like it, oh well, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think. But but don't get me wrong. Like I still really cared about what
people
think.
liking me more than you do.
Yeah, I guess so. But I also
did.
I still want people to like me. Don't get me wrong. I'm still a human. Like I like validation. I like feeling that sort of thing. But when I'm introspective in a dark room, I realize, it doesn't actually matter, because if I am this and I put this out there and people don't like it, well, they're just not my people.
Yeah.
And if there aren't people out there that like it at all, then I guess I'll just be like, I'm still going to be it. You know, I'd rather be something authentic and have a few friends, or no friends actually, than be something manufactured and have 1,000 friends.
Yeah.
That's me. Like I have to be real. And it's like, you know, it's
well, you start and end with what you hope to be one genuine friend in your life. It's got to be you, man. It's got to be you.
Yeah, because then you're putting and then and that's the thing, like, and you can help, and helping others be themselves and authentically express themselves into the world, which is what I do now, being like educating young people, is like, whoa, you know, as in, like, if you can give someone who's still in that social development, I don't really know who I am, I haven't really worked yet stage, and you can give them a toolbox of like, hey, just keep doing what you're doing, but here's some pitfalls you can avoid, here's some ways you can do it where you can have a better life. You don't have to work crappy jobs. You can work a job you like, you know, all this stuff. And that sense of purpose just gets me up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and that's good, because I had that a little bit when I went and was part of a youth organization and stuff, ended up working for it, but went in as a person. They're like, I'm going to get you a mentor. We're going to get this. And of course, my ego went, nah, I don't need that. I've got qualifications. I've worked before. I don't need any of that. But then the other thing I was going to say is, like, when I went to Download Festival and saw Behemoth play, for example, one of my favorite bands, I was like, just try and be a fan, because of this control thing, always trying to be in control, always trying to be, you know, alpha and all that sort of thing. But not alpha because I don't really want to control others. I just want to control myself. But but just be a fan, just let go. So when I saw them, I'm like, I'm just going to be a fan. I don't know what that feels like really, because I'm always watching, being like, I could play that. I could do that. Yeah. That's not that hard. Like, you know, and that's the ego. But if you let yourself go and say, these are titans of metal, let them give you a show and just enjoy it. Just be in the crowd, look up to them. Don't idolize, don't worship, but look up to them and say, this is great. Yeah. And there was one song halfway through the set where it was like one of my favorites. And I just remember, like, because I was sort of off away from the pit a bit, being all careful because I don't want to hurt myself, because I've got stuff to do with my body and stuff. And then this song came on and the riff was good and everyone was locked in, and I just went, nah, fuck it. And just sort of drifted off into the pit and was pushing dudes and just like, but it's all positive. That's the thing. It's not like we're fighting. We're actually just, we can't handle how good it is. So we have to act out physically. Yeah. You know, which is a good pit. Bad pits are when people get aggro and stuff. But that was a big experience, because I realized, like, if I apply myself, maybe I could elicit that reaction in others. Just like when I listen to Joe Rogan and think about us doing this, I'll be like, him and Duncan Trussell I've sat down and I've been doing something and then ended up sitting down, focused in on the conversations. I'm like, I got to listen to this shit, because this shit's real. This shit's going to help me. If I apply what they're saying, because they're older than me, and also they're really intelligent, really cool people. Yeah. It's like, I could avoid so much crap and actually be so much happier.
I think here's a healthy way to worship something. Okay. Or especially person, like, especially if you're like one of thousands of people standing before like 5 people doing something that is, not only is it this special rare thing that people do, but it's also a thing that you do. in your own time, you know, or something that you're aspiring to do, keep in mind that I am one of thousands of people standing before 5 people that are just as regular as me, just as regular as me. And look how far you can take regular.
You can make it extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But they're still just as regular as you.
Yeah. And another thing I thought of is about the idea of being the example and not necessarily having. So like because I always try and take it to the highest, most extreme level I can. So instead of, let's take, you know, being popular or wanting to pick up chicks or wanting to be famous and whatever as an example. So maybe some people do music because they want to be popular. They want to be famous. They want to get validation. They want to get girls. They want to do all these things. What if I built myself into a person, not just a musician, but a person who everything they did to set an example of the highest possible me? Because it's not, because I'm not everyone's cup of tea, right? But if I make me to be the ultimate me, and then I put that out there on show, whether it's as an educator or as a musician or as a comedian or whatever, and I'm literally just like this example of someone, and I'm not looking for what comes back from that in terms of accolades or anything like that, then I can feel safe in the knowledge that I'm doing it for a good reason.
Yeah. And that's where the humility and the honesty part, like being 100% honest throughout that whole process. And in fact, I think it'll even make you get there faster, is that, A, it is so important that there are examples like that in the world. And B, it's also very important that those examples leave breadcrumbs behind that are reminders of, look, like I'm just a regular person that tried really hard at something,
push myself,
that was important to me, and you can have that.
Yeah, exactly. And then also giving them, well, you can't give people, you can give people tools and ideas and then show them a door, but they have to walk through it. You can't force, and that's, you make it their idea. This is my thing I've realized, is when it becomes someone's idea and you light the fire in them, but when they start stoking it themselves and adding logs, that's when they do things, because it becomes their idea. And it's not that you've forced them or you've said, this is how you be successful, go and get this job, go and do that, go and wear this clothes, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you actually get to choose. Every little action you take in life is your choice. So if you show them not only what you shouldn't do and whatnot, but why shouldn't I do that? Oh, well, because this is the result. Oh, okay. It's like, but
even if it's the hardest way, you know, like, because here's what people do. I was saying this to a client the other day. So I had a client that came in, he's without giving his whole story, but he's just basically in this done a thing that a lot of people do, where he had a fortunate upbringing, fortunate life, and successful family, etc., and wanted to not let that pattern down, you know. So
had to live up to it.
This person has passions in their life that they haven't pursued because they went, well, I'll do a sure thing, like study law or become a teacher, or you know, I will follow a path that is a sure thing. You know, if I do X, Y, Z, I will get this job and I'll have this pay bracket and I will impress my dad. You know, but was absolutely miserable with it, and the shortcuts that they took to a sure way for me to be able, if I just do these things, it's going to take me like 5 years to get there, but it's a certainty. If I follow this path, I will get there. You know, if I put my head down and follow this path, I'll get there and everyone will be impressed. But it turns out, and I think this happens pretty much every time, is that at some point, once people finally do get to that stage that they thought, like, once I get there, I'll be happy with that, because they picked a sure thing, not their thing, a sure thing, all they find out is that I've actually just taken a massive detour to what I actually want. And I've lost 5 years.
Of precious time. Like, they work against their nature to try and fit into a structure that was laid out for them by others. Which,
and now I can't, now I don't even know if I can jump off of this ship now, because we all live to the extent of our means. And now
because
my
of that.
life is founded on
Yeah.
this
And I don't
rage.
have other skills because I
Yeah.
went in one direction. It's like I've been lucky to have an influence like my dad, who's a true individual, does what he wants, to the you know, chagrin and varying results of different people in his life.
Mhm.
But he literally does what he wants,
Mhm.
and he maintains it, and he is healthy. You know,
So
it's
there's
like, what else do you need, really?
just to interject, there's been a little side story
Oh, yeah?
developing in the comments over the last couple of hours. Neeks was a little concerned while she was at uni because she could smell pasties.
Oh,
And usually when Neek smells pasties, it's her body odor.
oh, really?
Yeah,
That's a
she
good
smells
body
like
odor.
pasties.
It's
Yeah,
actually not a bad.
so she's been asking people, or she's been asking me, like, do you is the pasty smell probably me? Anyway, foregoing conclusion, Nix has just let us know that she believes that it was not in fact her that smells like pasty before, but it probably is now.
So the mystery was solved.
Yeah. Pass the pasty.
That is awesome. It's like it's you know what I've realized as well, now that I've had a lot of time to myself recently, is sometimes I wake up in the morning, my first thought is put on Conquer All by Behemoth. Get ready, do your weights, let's go to work, you know.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm like, actually, I need a laugh this morning. I need this. I need something else. I need to just sit there and eat toast with nothing on.
Yeah.
And just hear the clock. You know, you don't. Sometimes you need something different to what you like. You can't go on one
Stir your
tangent.
hand for 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like, and I can't wait to get back into meditation and stuff because, or float tanks and, you know, these introspective things, because.
Have you done that float tank
Once?
Would you like? Did you like it?
I did.
Yeah.
So my conclusion from that was because I had a massage first. Me and a friend Carly went to do that a while ago, actually now, and so we got massage. Yeah. With oils and all the nice stuff, and, you know, from some 40-something hippie lady, and just, it was all nice and candles and beautiful. And then, well, one person was getting massaged, one person was in the tank, and vice versa. So when I jumped in the tank, obviously my idea was like, let's go deep, just internal, whatever. But then there's all the chatter for a while, for 20 minutes, for half an hour, for 40 minutes, and I think I was in there for an hour. Around the 45-minute mark, I remembered that I'm literally floating in a capsule. Yeah. That's floating in space as part of the planet, but like it's all dark in there. Yeah. So it's like I'm in this little, I won't call it a coffin, but like a little pod floating through the stars. Yeah. And the most important thing is to love everybody, you know, and be loved, and love yourself so that you're better equipped to love others. Yeah. And of course, like I said, there's nuance in that, and times you have to apply aggression and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, it's like if we had a good system set up, we could just all just love each other and have abundance and have pets and you know, all this. Like, it could just be awesome if people didn't go through so much damn trauma, which is why it's great that there's people like you out there helping others with psychology.
Well, I mean, I think it should never be anyone's goal to. This is a precarious thing to say. There should never be anyone's goal to rid the world of trauma.
Well, no, because it does help you, and it does make you stronger.
Well, Neeks was saying just yesterday, so because she's doing a psychology degree, and she's got lived experience with this, you know, so she's had a lot of intense trauma in her own life. There is, I can't remember what it's called. She might let us know, but there is actual evidence and data. They've actually named that process, the process in which people benefit in their personal development because of their traumas.
It's like work. It's like hard work. Like, I'm trying to teach young people who just want to play games and talk about their D&D or talk about their whatever they're into, that you got to work.
Well, I think even for some people, right? So I haven't experienced any like violent or oppressive trauma, but I've experienced the trauma of doing what I think I'm meant to do, which makes me poorer than most people. That makes me challenge my idea of like, you know, like, am I actually challenge my idea of my own value, you know? And so that was a necessary trauma that I had to drag myself through to realize that actually any of those sure things I could do instead are the long way. It's actually more painful for me to do these other things that would be easier, because I'm still going the same way. Even if I think so, I like, you know, I walked away from music and stuff altogether a couple of years ago and thought, you know, like, well, nail in the coffin, you know, but I actually just took this massive detour right back to it. It's who I am.
Because it got you to the fruits of your true being.
But that pain was necessary. And
now definitely.
Without that pain, without that self-hatred, without that, like, you know, insecurity and whatever, and all of those issues of like, what kind of a father does this make me? What kind of an example am I setting? You know, how am I disappointing all of the people that believe in me, etc.?
That's a tough one.
You know, everyone's idea of me, all that stuff. I can't really remember what my point was there, but can
I jump in for a sec?
Yes.
So like my example of that is, you know, if I get home after a difficult day at work, obviously I do meaningful work, but it's still challenging. And I just think, in order to relax, I want to jump on the drums, but it's, you know, 7:30, you know, and it's like, do I want to not hassle my neighbors because it's just the pads or whatever, but still, do I want to be like that? Or should I do what I'm sort of expected to do, which is when I was in a relationship, is sit down and help with dinner and then, you know, watch a program and then go to bed because it'd be good for the next day. Like, should I do that, or should I do what I know is going to help me feel better? Because I'm pushing the part of my life, which is my self-expressive, you know, ego or whatever. And just to give the mind some relaxation, because which is weird that it relaxes me. But the thing I wanted to say about hard work is, like, you know, that's a great example you were talking about, because you were working hard in a thing that you didn't fit in order to try and do the right things because you really wanted to help your family, and that's like really amicable. But then you've found that you're a better person when you do the things that happen naturally for you.
And the people that I would do the alternate things for like me better when I do what makes me me anyway.
Exactly.
I'm easier to be around.
Yeah, dude. And that's the other thing, is like, people need to let you be you, as long as you being you isn't sponging from them and taking from them, and, you know, they're supporting you to be you and you're just running amok. Because I've done that before. It's not good. It's not fair on the people that support me.
Being the fly eating from their skull.
Kind of, and that's the other thing about responsibility and taking on the responsibility of, you know, like, I'll just work harder now that I find something meaningful that I'm doing, and actually live as an individual and be responsible for all those things, so people don't feel like they have to take care of me. And I'll build myself to a point where they don't have to take care of me. And I know that I'm okay. And so, but the thing about hard, like, if people haven't worked before and you're trying to teach them that they have to work and they have to be in these uncomfortable situations, first of all, you can make work really meaningful. And if you find work that you like, fantastic. But even if you find work you don't like, you can gamify it to make it handleable and whatever. And the payoff is, you're in that tight clothing, or you're in the clothing you don't like, you're working that job. You feel so much better when you've done a hard day's work and you've got money and you go, I'm going to go get a palmy. I'm going to go get a meal. I'm going to go drink a beer. I'm going to do whatever it is that your regulating is. I'm going to go sit and watch Netflix. That feels so much sweeter, because I've had periods of unemployment where I'll get up at 11:30 every day and, you know, and just go, what's in the fridge? Oh, all right. And sit down and watch a bit of daytime TV. And then, you know,
what's Judge Judy doing today?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's have a look at the crazies, you know, and then play some games for 3 hours, you know, and then just go, I might wander down the beach. At least I've left the house today. I remember telling myself that. I was like living in a share house today. Like the guy I was living with, he's a mate. He's all right. But he would just still be asleep from the night before, because he went to bed at 4. And I'd be up making coffee and like going to the bakery and grabbing a pie and then wandering down the beach and thinking, and coming back and he's still asleep. And then he wakes up around 5 p.m. and goes, oh man, you know, and then I'll be like, well, at least I did something today. And it's like, dude, there's people out there working 60 hours a week and I'm there congratulating myself because my immediate,
more done than this guy.
But my immediate situation was like, I've achieved way more.
That was your house hierarchy.
Yeah, and so that's obviously negative to be around for too long. So I only was there for 2 months, but there was good times. Don't get me wrong, but that's like, you can't compare yourself to others. You got to compare yourself to your own version of yourself that you want to be.
Yeah,
and that's going to continually get better. So you've got to. That's the other thing I struggle with, is congratulating yourself for what you have done. So I did some goal setting with the group recently.
You used to really struggle with that. I remember you used to struggle a lot with when we play gigs. People come up and tell you that you were really good, and
I've had
tell them
trouble
they're
with,
wrong.
I've had, well, because of what I had as envisioned it to be.
Yeah.
And because that vision's quite detailed and, you know, whatever. But the thing I found is
You're a
like,
proper artist because you're a perfectionist.
yeah. And even, yeah, it's hard because that's the work mode. But then sometimes when I've been in a relaxed state, or I've been, you know, I've actually listened to some things I've done, tried to listen to it without that mindset, and I can go, oh, you know, we got across most of the points we wanted to, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one thing I've been doing with goal setting and stuff is thinking like, don't just, well, first of all, you set attainable goals and then you put them into little steps. But before you even do all that, think of all the stuff you've already done. Like if you're someone who woke up this morning, that's you've achieved something. You got out of bed, that's another thing. You made a cup of tea. This is all little steps.
That is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is today.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, but it's like potential is this thing that when you start seeing your own potential, that's why it can crush you, because you might think, you know, I've got all this potential, I want to do all these things. And if you've got a bit of a scatterbrain like I do, you don't want to just do one thing. You want to do heaps of stuff, and you're interested in all of it. Like, do you ever have a YouTube, like you're on YouTube and you watch this, then you watch that, then you watch this, and you watch that, and then you just go wherever your mind wants to go?
I tend to, so I have like I reckon there's like my 5 basic interest rabbit holes that I go down. So I go down massive psychology, spirituality, neurology, like rabbit holes, like the psychotherapy stuff. I am just fascinated by film.
Yeah.
But not just the movies themselves, the whole industry.
Yep.
And I don't mean celebrity culture. I just mean like the whole thing, the producers, the directors of photography. Like I realize that the reason that is that I think there's a few things that I could probably, that I'm optimized for in terms of the way my mind is able to figure things out. I understand film. I understand things like acting, or I think partly through being mates with you, I've been, well, because you exposed me to Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell and stuff, which opened me up to this whole world of comedy, because I didn't really understand stand-up comedy and the nuances and the performance aspect of it. I thought like my ignorant idea of comedy is that they're ad-libbing. So they're just getting up and just, I didn't realize, but I didn't realize it was performance. I knew that some do. And then made me appreciate the ones that do even more.
Yeah.
Like Whose Line Is It Anyway? And that, you know, improv stuff.
Yep.
So my rabbit holes usually are those things: music related, film related, or art related, like visual art related. And so my mind starts teaching me how to do those things. I feel like if I wanted to go and pursue stand-up comedy now, I actually have, from all of the things that I've just accidentally spent the last 5 years watching and listening and talking to you and hearing you talk about it, what I'm like, I reckon I know how that works. I reckon I could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
In another life.
No, you could do it.
You know?
I know you could do it. And that's the thing, is like one thing I've realized about doing it, I think 8 times now, is, and irregularly when I can fit it in, is that, you know, I'm not my funniest friend. You're very funny. JT's very funny. You know, there's people we know who are extremely funny. Spice is funny. You know, there's a lot of people that are as funny as I could be, like, you know, and Aaron, and just the people. One of the reasons I got inspired to do it was hanging out with some of my funniest mates and us just being dickheads, you know. And you know, it's like that. I tried to translate, you know, when you're hanging around with people and you're having a chat and people just share a funny story and they get into it and they get animated and it kills, like it does well in the group. I'm like, if I can do that on stage, I'm good. But obviously it's contextual, and you all know the people, and you know the people in the story that you're telling, and it's like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, Simba would have got loose like that. Yeah, he would have jumped up on the tables. You know, it's like, so that's, you can't just, it's a group of strangers.
Some good comedians do that. Some good comedians take on the personas of the funnier people around them and make it part of the act. You know,
and like I love character stuff. Like I love putting on a voice. And like my last thing I did like a Japanese accent, and it was funny to me to try it, and it got giggles and stuff. But
people gasp.
But the biggest, you know what the funny thing is, the best reaction I've had is when I do the Bogan voice, because that's one of my biggest influences living down south.
Yeah.
And like I did this one set about Elon Musk and how it's ridiculous that he wants to go to Mars because there's fuck all there, you know, and just went through all these different reasons why he should just stay in a, like, people should just stay on the world.
More going on at the fucking Mars bar up the road.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, all the pubs got beer, it's got women, it's got, you know, why would you go around Mars? There's nothing there, man. You walk out the door, we ran out of we just drank the last beer, let's go to the fucking bottler again. No, oh fuck, no bottler, you know, like just like
fucking landed on Mars, party of one.
Yeah. Oh, we got to make a brewery. That's going to take ages. Like, so, and there was all
these are demonstrations of Bogan speaking.
Yeah. So, like, people people whose sole motivation
I just have to point that because most
right, Americans. Yeah.
So
sorry, guys, but
Bogan.
it's people who have like a basic set of, you know, needs, and it's like those their beers in the fridge. Is the footy on later?
They're the Australian version of the dude.
Kind of, yeah. Simple, often, you know, like, I don't want to be too general, because a lot of the nicest people I've met are Bogans, you know, and they take you in and they want to show you, like, this is where my kid sleeps, and this is, you know, like, they're just way open, just crazy people.
Obviously, like, anyone that's had a conversation with me or you knows that you and I aren't very surface conversation people.
No,
right?
we're very deep.
So people get to know that about us pretty quickly. And I was at a Bucks night, and a bunch of his mates are tradies and stuff, and like half of my family are from a really rough part of Adelaide, you know. So like, it's in my blood, man. Too, you know. Like,
Port Adelaide,
Salisbury,
dude.
Yeah,
wow,
yeah. Like,
go on. Yeah.
Balls deep, man.
Yeah, mate.
Balls deep in Bogan.
Jimmy Barnes.
It's in me blood, mate. Fucking snake whipper. Fucking kill him.
Just kick black snakes.
Pick him up by the tail and whip that fucking thing. Okay, so I had this guy come up to me. Yeah. I loved it. It was beautiful. I love friendly Bogans, and here's why. Because one of them come up to me and he goes, "Oh yeah, nah, like, you know, just like, you know, I do think about deeper stuff, you know, like, I know that there's, like, you know, like, there's this universe and there's, like, more universe than that and that, you know, like, I do spend time thinking about that. You know, I know I've got the high vis on and that I look like, but, you know, I am thinking about this sort of stuff." And I was like, I know you are.
Yeah, it's like, you may have pigeonholed me as a dickhead and a dumbass, but no, I mean, just so you know. And was it unsolicited? Did he come up and start there?
It just came out of nowhere. We were having a conversation about something else, and he was just like, really important for me to make sure that you know that even though I talk like this, I do think about stuff, and I want you to know that I'm more than just this.
Oh, I love freaking people out too. Like, I was at a party up in Elizabeth once recently. It's like a gig in a backyard, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of mates there, and there was a couple of people I didn't know, but when I had a couple of beers in me, I just went full me. And just I was thinking about reality the other day, and just fucking, you know, consciousness and this. And one guy just goes, "Oh, we're there already, are we?" And I just thought, yep. But he was strapping himself in. He was getting comfortable. And you know the lean listen. They lean in like, all right, this cunt's saying something I probably should understand.
Yeah.
Like, and it's that there's like, it's so funny with males especially, because there's this like intelligence hierarchy when you start arcing up and talking about something, and you know what you're talking about. And they're like considering that they'll go in there like, you know, yeah, I'm pretty good, you know, and that they've got that. And then you see that you're kind of intentionally or unintentionally dominating the conversation, and not necessarily like, but people interject. And I love that. I'm not the type of person that wants to talk at people. I like people challenging and me going, "Oh, well, let's figure it out together," you know, kind of thing. But then when people will be listening and they'll be trying, like,
and
they've got the
look. We think
that
people that don't often think about those things or talk about these things are inferior.
Not at all. It's just that I've thought about them a lot. And a lot of the times I'm thinking about them, I'd rather be sleeping. But my brain's like, "Oh, dude, but where's this rock? What's under here? What's under here? What's under here?" And the fact that, like,
and I think that's artist brain. You know,
dude,
before we're talking about the YouTube rabbit holes, I think the reason that we get stuck in those is, well, I think like I can only watch something for so long before I have to start doing it.
Yes, exactly. And that brings me to this. I wanted to read this to you and see what your reaction was, because I opened this book the other day and flicked through and went, all right, universe, just come at me. What do you got to tell me?
Yeah.
And it said it was page 212 of Happier Than God by Neil Donald Walsh, apparently a New York Times bestselling author of the Conversations with God series.
Yes.
Turn ordinary life into an extraordinary experience.
I think they made
Available now
Conversations
by
with God
HarperCollins.
into a movie at some point too.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably would have been one of those like, you know, daytime straight to VHS movies that's like, you know, 3 hours long and all the actors are B grade and stuff.
Hallmark.
Yeah, like, you know, the message is good, but it's all like that, like soft filtered, bold and the beautiful camera work, and you know, like, yeah. But anyway, I open it up, and it says number 4 because it's laid out like, you know, if you read this whole thing, you'll basically be master and commander of your own universe and whatever. And I generally tend to go, oh well, I'll just read bits and pieces. But it says, be clear that nothing you see is real. I went, okay, well, it's interesting. And then it says, we live in the world of illusion. See communion with God for an extraordinary discussion on the 10 illusions of humanity, blah, blah, blah. He's trying to sell his other book, you know. This is where my mind goes. I go critical. I'm like, ooh, what? So this is interesting stuff, but what are you trying to sell me, sort of thing? But anyway, it goes on with, you will understand your true relationship with everything around you when you think of yourself as a magician observing his own tricks.
Yep.
And it says, have the fun that a good magician has, but don't forget for a moment that it is all an illusion. And I'm going to stop there for a second just to comment on that, in the sense that if you set yourself up to, like, if you're sitting in a room and you're healthy, right, and you have a brain that works, you have a body that works. Not everyone does, and I have compassion for those that don't. But let's say you do. Let's say you put together and you're aware of yourself. You then get to leave that room and do whatever you want to do to set up your life in the way that you want it to play out. Now, you can't control other people. I mean, some people do and can, but it creates resentment and you shouldn't do it. But you can influence people, and you can influence people in some ways using psychology to get them to act the way you would want them to act towards you.
Yep.
Which is a little bit diabolical, but it can be done. And you can
set art of war.
What's that?
The art of war.
Well, we think if you're a military commander, you have to not only give orders, but know how to give the orders so that they'll be followed. So everyone's different and they respond differently. And that comes down to trust as well. If people trust you, they'll follow you. They'll do what you tell them to.
Not just what the order you give, how you optimize someone to follow an order that you give.
Yeah. And if you're in a position of like being a musician, like a singer or a comedian or someone who has the power over the room, because you've got the microphone and you don't lose the crowd, you then can hypnotize people to take the journey with you down a song route or down a consciousness route with something, and you can influence them, and you can, you know, there's so much you can do with it. And I've always shied away from that kind of power. I thought, well, I don't need that because I already know these things. Or I already know these things in the context of the way I know them. In the sense that not everyone is going to, I've never liked when people come up to me and try and tell me an idea. This is the way this is, and this, because I'm like, that's you worked it out like that. I might work it out a bit different. It's cool that I'm getting knowledge from you, but don't tell me how to think.
In the words of the dude, well, that's like your opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And this goes on to say, after, have fun that a good magician has, but don't forget for a moment that it is all an illusion. More important, don't forget that it is you who are creating the illusion. Endeavor, therefore, not to get lost in it. So in a sense, like, you're creating the universe you want because, like I say, you're in a room now and you leave the room, you take yourself to the car, you take yourself to work, you take yourself to these places. Oh, I have to go to work. Well, you don't actually have to do anything. But if you don't, there's consequences and your life implodes on you and whatever. But you still don't have to do that. You can go and like sneak onto a barge and go to China and be there with no possessions.
In terms of your survival, what you have to do and what you will do become very different.
Totally.
What was I gonna say? I really wanted to say it. It was good.
It might come back.
You
can't get them all. Like, there's at least 4 or 5 tangents I wanted to go on that I didn't. And that's why you just do it more. And I had this thought on the way, because I have all these notes and stuff, and let's see if there's any others that I really want to cover. But there's that one's a good one. But basically it's like everything of you is in you, and you don't. Yep.
So people mistake. So in that moment of like, don't get wrapped up in the illusion so much that you forget that you're a magician observing your own tricks, right? So maybe another way to describe that and to quote him again, because we've been doing it a lot, Jordan Peterson talks about like, don't mistake. Oh, so someone, I watched a Q&A with him, and someone said to him like, you're basically the closest thing in our current times as a modern day Messiah. And so his answer was, instead of being like, oh God, don't be so ridiculous, I'm not a Messiah, he was like, he took it on respectfully and was basically laid out like, don't, like, I appreciate that, that's great. I see what you mean by that. I understand that. You know, like even Jordan Peterson has to acknowledge his incredible success
and influence.
And there's another tangent about that I want to add into as well. But he's like, don't mistake people for the archetype.
Yeah.
You know, so don't mistake like the archetypal magician, you know, so like an incredible musician or a performer of some kind is kind of an illusionist of some kind, you know, like they're creating a world that's bigger than just them.
Yep.
Right. And so a really cool example of this is one of the songs that I get requested to play when I do cover gigs more than anything is Creep by Radiohead.
Yeah. Okay.
And people love that song. Right. Now, there are times that now when I perform that song, it's never felt like I like the song, but compared to any of my own songs or any other cover that I could play, when I perform that, for me, nothing more special is happening than it is when I'm doing any other song. But and so sometimes even the other musicians on stage with me, performing it with me, at the end of the song, haven't even been able to wait until the end of the set. This might be in the middle of the set, and they'll like Kat once leaned over to me and she was like, that was really special. Yeah, that was really special, you know. Or someone in the audience will come up, same gig even, and go like, wow, man, like you guys are great, but when you sang Creep, you know, like I transcended. Now they don't know that when I was doing that, I was going, I've got to recharge Tosh's multi-trip for the bus tomorrow. Yep. Right. Yeah. So people are projecting, seeing the archetype of this artistic, like angelic, because the song is angelic.
Yes.
You know, like,
yes.
You know, and so the song, so I perform the song. I don't even have to be 100% in the song, and the observers see this masterful angelic, and they project onto me this idea of like, he felt every inch of that song and it got in me. And I was thinking about shopping,
because that's what they were feeling.
Yeah.
Because they set up, this is the power of music. They had a set of experiences when they heard that song for the first time, for the second time, for the third time. Maybe they were making out with a chick when they heard it, or there's a memory attached to it.
And it's not to kill the illusion either. Sometimes when you play music, you are having a transcendent experience too. But not always when they are.
No, but the like that blueprint thing, like playing a cover song, especially because it's been programmed into people's emotions and it's intertwined with their life and their memories. That can elicit a really intense response. There's certain songs I haven't listened to since a breakup, like 5 years ago.
It's just vibrations and chemicals.
Yeah, well, see, this is interesting because this brings me to, I've thought about all this for a lot. And just quickly on the illusion thing, the magician thing, it's all real. We know it's all real. But then we go into simulation theory and are we just, but this also brings me to the next point, the chemicals thing. What if, and I posit this question to you because I think you can understand this as a question, is like, the idea of, you know, what if we are like a radio transmitted, our real consciousness is just too huge for, you know, the body and whatever. And the capacity of our brain is able to process and then express and interact with the world.
I think that's basically the quantum physics concept of consciousness.
Yeah. So whether we are that or whether we are just our body and brains doesn't actually matter, because the experiences we get to have, if everything is in sync the way we want it to be, are authentic experiences. When you lose sense of time, or you get in a state of flow and you're having a really intimate experience, or a really great experience on stage, or a really good friendship fun experience, or you're just swimming in the ocean, or you're whatever, having a good meal, that can be transcendent. So much can be transcendent. It's like, and it doesn't, like the debate of like, well, it's just your brain, or well, it's with your spiritual beings. It doesn't matter. Just have the experience.
At the moment, there's not enough empirical evidence to back up the idea that we are just like physics and
what if it's both?
and brain, whatever, because you can, at the moment, you can only take that standpoint by having a reductionist view.
Well, you can't play a game without a computer.
Yeah.
But when you get absorbed into a game or a movie on a screen, that's the machine.
Yeah.
So your machine is eliciting the experience and being, what's the word? It's facilitating the experience, because I look at it like this, and I wanted to bring this up too. Like when you jump into a game like with a mech suit on, or you jump into something with a space suit and you've got different powers, like you've got all these missiles and weapons in your mech suit, and you can interact with the world differently. You can pick up boulders because you've got these claws, arms and stuff. Then you jump out of that and you're like, oh, I'm just a person again. It's like, what if your thing that you are is this nebulous, expansive, all-encompassing thing of consciousness, and it gets channeled through a suit of, you know, skin and face and all this other stuff, and then you get to experience it in this way. But you can be big also by being on stage, or by helping a bunch of people, and there's this exchange of weird feeling, like it's a weird sense of feeling at home when you do something that's really kind or really compassionate or really powerful in whatever, like whether it's a good thing or a power thing or a whatever. And obviously I tend towards the good things because they feel better and they're more about abundance, but I explore the other things, you know, with death metal, black metal, like satanic metal. There's a lot of dark shit in that. And I haven't ever given myself to anything. This is the other thing. I've always been like, I'm me. I listen to it all. I watch it all, but I don't absorb into any camp or any ideology or any vertex of thinking, whether it's left and right on the political scale or God or Satan. I'm just like, oh, that's all very fine, but I'm going to go over here and do this other way, whatever that is, you know?
Yeah. Drugs have told me.
Yeah. What did they tell you?
Drugs have told me that, so I don't have one here, but I was trying to demonstrate this to someone else the other day. I got a strainer.
Yeah.
And I got a torch, the torch off my phone, like a strainer that you strain pasta out. It's just a,
it's like a colander.
It's a bowl with lots of holes in
colander, I think it is. Yeah.
Colander? Right.
I think so.
And so I got the strainer and I got a little torch off my phone and I shone the torch into the strainer. And then obviously on the other side, the light broke up into all these other different squares. And now some of them clumped together and they were uniform. And then you had these other ones around on the edges and stuff that were like longer and a little bit like oblong and deformed, you know? So you had like your uniform squares in the middle, but because the bowl is shaped like this. Anyway, so drugs told me, and this is just their opinion, and I don't have to fully subscribe to it, but they were very convincing.
Yep.
Is that higher self is that, you know, like you are light, standing like between you and me is the shadow obstructing the same light we are.
Oh yeah. No, I get that because let's say we all came from the Big Bang. Let's be scientific about this, but let's bring it back to what we're talking about. Those moments you feel when you connect with someone, or when you connect with an audience, or when you connect with a meal, or something that's alive, and the planet's alive, so you can always connect with that if you're short of friends. But let's say you have those moments. If science is true, and the Big Bang started everything from whatever, and we're all star stuff and we're all made up of it, then of course we resonate. And of course, because we're the same shit. Because it was like, you know, whatever, however the universe formed, let's say it starts with a certain amount of things, and then those things created all the other things, and those things feel connected. And you feel more connected when you go for a bushwalk, or when you go for, you know, when you're connecting with someone intimately, or when you're connecting with people and laughing and what it is, of course, because you're actually the same stuff. But it's been dispersed, and of course with technology we've made stuff like cars and speakers and computers and whatever, and it's like, but it's almost like we've customized our senses, and we get to really enjoy life through, you know,
it's just so easy to feel what other people do.
Yeah,
by
be
watching
empathic.
them feel it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and when you know about, because I've been learning that through my job too, because we teach social skills, we teach emotional regulation, we teach heaps of stuff to young people, and it's like the thing that I realize is like I'm learning all this too. So when someone's talking to me, if they're open and expressive and they've got eye contact and stuff like that, that means they're engaged. If they're a bit more like this, or if I start saying something about them or about concepts and they start clamming up, I don't say much about more of that because I'm making them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not ready to hear that.
Yeah.
So but I didn't think about that as much until I learned it, which is why learning is so important. And one of the things about challenging yourself and putting yourself in tough situations in life is you learn from those. Like if you just did the same thing, we're talking about jobs before, if you did the same thing every day and you'd nailed your job down, you know how to do it, you start getting bored. But you're like, well, I need the 70 grand a year, so I'll keep doing it. Mm-hmm. Unless you're challenging yourself outside of that and actually pushing yourself, or a lot of people have families, so that's a challenge in itself, and a big job. I would assume, because I haven't done it yet, but it's like that becomes, it's good to be able to chill out a bit at work and just call it in and get your money. But it's like, one thing Peterson said is like, you'd have no idea how efficient people can get. It's like, look at and Arnold Schwarzenegger, I was listening to him the other day about, he's talking about, there are 24 hours in one day, you sleep 6 hours. Some people say, no, I sleep 8 hours. And I would say, oh, we'll sleep faster, and then you're left with 16 hours or whatever. And it's like, what he's saying makes sense. And some people have those brains where they're like, for 1 hour, I will do this. And for 1 hour, I will do this. And it's like, I can't, I always filter into the next hour because I haven't quite finished the thing. And I get too deep into that. Yes. And and it's like, that's part of me. But I can get to the point where I'm that scheduled. I have been.
That's a bit of it's a bit of a slight mindset thing there in that, just from my own personal experience, like I do the same thing where my schedule never gets adhered to because the thing that I'm doing I end up getting more involved than I was able to be able to wrap it up when I said I was going to wrap it up and start moving on to the next thing. And that became easier when I stopped thinking that my participation in a thing is for the point of completion. Because completion tends to be our goal a lot.
Yep.
But completion is nowhere near as satisfying as progression.
The process, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
which is why people like, now, I'm not in their heads or whatever, but it's why people can be incredibly successful, and then when they get to that point where they're meant to rest on that success, all of the demons that they avoided on the way there just show up. They're right there. It's why, like, Chris Cornell killed himself. It's why Chester Bennington killed himself. Like, they're all successful, completed guys. You can't get bigger than Linkin Park. You can't get big. I mean, you can, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like
I do.
Like, you rest there. Like Robbie Williams, like, hated his own guts for a really long time. Super successful dude. Robin Williams killed himself. No, I think Robin Williams was a bit more.
He was an interesting
other
case,
stuff going on there. I don't know.
From what I know of it, yeah.
But yeah, like, it's this whole thing of like everyone. It's the part of life is a trip.
Oh yeah,
right. The whole thing is
very
a trip,
strange,
right? And when you do a big enough trip, that becomes very clear that like, I haven't just started a trip. I just took a different one for 12 hours, and then I go back to the one I was already on, right?
Yeah.
And the trip, the part of a trip. So one of the things that can make an actual psychedelic trip really hard to deal with is if you get deep enough into that experience, you forget it's going to end. And that's scary.
Hey, what about if, and this is like obviously something I've thought about and I don't know, what if life itself doesn't end? And some people come into the world with a lot of wisdom and knowledge.
That's what procreation is.
Well, yes, exactly. And yes, but also the whole, I'm getting into like the full woo thing about reincarnation and the fact that maybe some people have been here hundreds of times, or they've been on other planets, or they've lived as different types of entities in the universe. Like, I've gone off the deep end before with that. I don't really do that anymore, but it's
my version of reincarnation there. So still with that same analogy of shining the light through the strainer, and you get the broken up lights or whatever. So my interpretation of reincarnation in terms of that is any life that pops up is a reincarnation of that same beam,
and
in the first place.
If you think about what making children is, right? Conceptually, you're at a certain point in your life with your morals, your ideas, your life, your your body, how well healthy you've maintained yourself, all these different things, and you've got an outlook and you've got a persona and a consciousness and all that stuff at that point. You meet someone that fits that and mirrors that. You hopefully, know each other for a while and get everything settled and have the financial backing and blah, 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 all the practical stuff. But you create a new life, like a blank slate out of that interaction, which should be love and, all the things it should be. And then you instill your values that you've learned through your customized existence and your influences on that thing. And then that becomes a force in the world.
Even in a scientific sense. So even scientifically, we now know that experiences are able to be passed on genetically. So trauma specifically, if you have trauma, that trauma will be passed down for at least 3 generations. So like for example, Neeks had her childhood trauma, her mum had her childhood trauma, right? So both Neeks and her mum were both like violently and sexually abused as children. Harlequin, my daughter, wasn't, but she has a lot of the behavioral characteristics of someone that is being abused.
Wow.
But she's not.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've also now kind of proven, and I can't remember exactly at what point, but it's pretty solid that that will be present again in Harlequin's children still. It takes 3 generations from the end of a trauma for the trauma to not be visible in the offspring of that person, which means that we all take over the family business. We all get the family business. And what I mean by that is that at some point, once you go out and venture into the world and become independent, you take all of your previous predecessors, your hereditary predecessors, shit with you. All of the things they haven't solved are now yours to solve.
That's why
reincarnation.
Well, yeah. And also look, and I'm okay with, I've actually come to terms with my own death in the sense that if I have progeny one day, hopefully not for many years, but because I've got a lot of work to do and a lot of music and a lot of touring to do, but if I have progeny one day and
thankfully semen still works in our 70s.
Well, like men have it a bit easier than women do, but the thing I wanted to say about the evils in the world and what you've described is like something someone has done that's been fucked up to someone is having effects on an innocent later because of the flow-on effect of that. And there's a lot of bad shit in the world. And being a male, being capable, being young, and having lifted weights recently, and of course the testosterone is probably increasing and all that, I'm starting to go, I need to fix the world. I need to fucking fix it. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to punch people until they do the right thing. Obviously.
I'm going to punch it good.
Or I punch them with logic, Oi, intelligence, here's how you live, dickhead. Like, no, but it's
for the future.
It makes you have to be very aware. And like one of the things I think you're on a great track and I'm developing it too is you look out for the things in people that show that they might be in distress or they might be in a bad situation. Of course, mandatory reporting, because I work with people who are younger, I have to look out for, and if I'm picking someone up from their house, I need to look out for signs of abuse or trauma and all that stuff. Luckily,
Which is
no one
a tricky
has
spot to be in, because it basically means part of your job is judging.
Yeah. And it's a huge thing, but it's like when you see how hard some people have it, and I've built a life where I'm in control of it and I have an income and all these things, and I want that to increase and I want to have more control and I want all the good things and blah, 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 blah. But it's like some people are in situations that are unavoidable. They've got well, I say unavoidable. There's always, I don't know. It's hard to say because it's like a lot of people are in situations that are tough. Let's put it that way.
People don't, okay, it is, your starting point is luck of the draw. And I am a white Western privileged person saying this, so I've got to keep that on my shoulder. But well, there was a really interesting video, and again, we keep mentioning people that if you mention them, you're in trouble. But Morgan Freeman was having an interview with
Why is he
another
in trouble? What did he do?
because
wrong?
he apparently allegedly sexually assaulted someone.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I heard.
Shit.
Maybe that's not true.
I haven't watched the news for months, so I have no idea.
Don't watch
what's
it.
going on. I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all the inner work. It's been heaps good.
Yeah. It's their problem.
Yeah.
So he's having an interview with
Yeah.
this guy on Fox News, and the guy interviewing him is also African American.
Mhm.
And so the interviewer is trying to sort of put it to Morgan Freeman, like Morgan Freeman's attitude basically was, I don't give a fuck if you're born in the Bronx. If you don't want to be there, get out.
Yeah.
You know? And he was like, the bus runs every day.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. And that's like, if you've got responsibilities, you've got a family, obviously you want to look after that and blah, blah, blah. But if you're, you know, and I sometimes wake up and go, oh, whew, single male, you know, with job.
And the
still
response
kind of
to
young.
that is,
it's like, oh my God, I've got all the options are available to me.
Do you know how risky that is?
Yeah.
What? I'm just going to, because I don't like where I live and it's a bad neighborhood or whatever, I'm just going to get on the bus and go somewhere else and make a life there. And it's like, if you want,
I mean,
like, that'll be really hard.
There'll be consequences, but look, you could do it.
But
it's not impossible.
The thing you want, the thing you really want, all of us individually, even if we all individually want a completely different thing, the thing that we all really want is the hardest thing to get. It's always going to be the hardest thing to get. That's why we want it. It's your challenge, man.
Yeah, and it's like, are you up to it? But are you willing to, like, if something's important enough, are you willing to risk financial loss or
social
loss, stuff loss? Like, you could lose stuff, you'd have to sell things you love, but they're all things. Like, having.
But I just geared this character up.
Yeah. And people get married to their things. Yeah. You go to their house, they show you, I got this. And I've just got the new 55-inch plasma. It does deep color. And you're just like, cool. Do you still watch the news on it? Like, do you still watch the shitty shows, like, you know, the shitty reality TV show? But, you know, look, and I watch some reality TV. I don't mind a bit of Married at First Sight.
We don't even have a TV in our house, but I still manage to get to see the same things everyone else does.
It's interesting because I look at, like, if you're a consumer of stuff, you get one point of view, and it's an interesting point of view because everything that's happening in the world, especially if it's on TV, is being fed to you and you're getting an idea of the big picture, which is good to a degree. It can be good, but a lot of people just get caught up in that. It's like the fan and leader thing, you know, or the follower and leader. But there's something I wanted to think and talk about with, and there was a tangent that I missed another one, damn it. But is like the idea of doing the highest good that you can imagine, right? Even if it means you don't get what you want, what you desire. So that's nobility, right? So if you're in a situation where you're, and look, I bring it back to baseline. I'm healthy. I'm relatively young. I don't have medical issues. I now have all my time because I'm single. And it's like, I can apply myself to do the greatest good in any situation, whether it's just you're at the shops, the old lady drops her shopping and you go, oh, come here, I'll help you with that. Oh, thanks, dear. And then my husband was, and then they get into a conversation, like, I can get glued to this conversation and make her day, or I can go and do the thing I needed to do. Let's give her about 2 minutes. Or, you know, that's a little example. A big example is you're running a group and you, to your detriment, or you go into work tired, or you do it regardless because it's the most important, like, it's more important than you being happy because of the good you can do in that situation. So obviously you get happy by doing it. Don't get me wrong. There's a payoff for doing altruistic things, and that's part of why we do it. But if you can really get yourself to a point where you go, I'm actually going to help others and do the right thing, and animals and whomever and plants, like, you know, just watering plants is one of the best feelings. Like, I've got this little creeper in my house at the moment that's coming through the slats in the entertaining area. And it, you know, most people would have gone, oh, that doesn't supposed to be there. Plants go around the edge of it. You have dog. It's like someone who could barely get to the gig because they were so drunk and they were so nervous, and then they get on stage and you're just like, come on, man, just do it. Do your best, you know? And it's like, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know how much they can handle. It's like, but that was more in my sort of punk rock days rather than my metal days.
When you're being generous, do you reckon, like in that altruism, do you think ultimately the goal there is to not necessarily facilitate, but like you're being generous with, you're giving somebody the opportunity to hopefully get where they're trying to go?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The idea is that everyone's got things they want to do. And if you really look at it,
so like the ultimate good you could do would be to allow other people to enact their own ultimate good.
Yeah.
Right.
And because everyone's got, well, not everyone's got a master plan for their life, but you can help them build that.
And I think you've got to be one. So a lot of people don't do this, right? A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people get stuck on this idea that I am just me. People overlook the fact that you're in a relationship with you.
Yes.
You negotiate.
Yes.
With you.
Yes. And I've started understanding this too. And that's where self-care has become important, because for so long I was pushing hard, not sleeping properly, just take a few caffeine pills, keep going. Oh, you're too tired to drive, take the train. You know, it's like, dude, you know, like, let's figure out a way to make this work. And I have been getting better at that, because you will just burn out. And I've done that a few times and it's not good.
Yeah. So that's really a really hard thing to balance. Like, like it's one of the things that I deal with clients with a lot of clients come to me when they get to a point where they can't live with themselves because they've put all of their time and energy into making other people's lives great, but theirs.
And this is one thing that gave me great comfort once, is I realized, oh, you shouldn't be worried about death, right? Because if you look at your life like a movie, if you watch a movie and you thoroughly enjoy it and it has a great story arc, and then everything, it's beautiful, and it ends, and you're like, that's the right time for it to end because I'm sleepy, and you just go to sleep. Then you wake up the next day and do whatever. That's like, you've got a certain amount of years once you become conscious and aware of yourself to then live however you wish to. Because you have influence, you have people telling you, go to school, go to do this, and you can resist whatever you want. You take whatever path you want. You literally can. There's just consequences and reactions and results from whatever you do. But it's like, if you envision a life and you live as close to that highest vision of your life as you can for as long as you can from when you make that decision, it's fine to die because you've done it all. Like, if you have
to worry about death if you think it's not going to happen.
And people who worry about it are people who are trying to control everything. And like, you know, so a lot of people die with money in the bank. It's like, what are you doing? Why didn't you, like, you know, one of the massive things people get freaked out about.
Here's what I think. People freak out a lot about death because they don't want to die yet, because if I was to die now, that wouldn't be a good ending. So people are less scared of dying because we all know we're going to die. Like, we all know that. Like, I think we all actually really do accept that. It's just that not now.
No, not now.
Not now.
No,
because we're going to after.
All these things, and then a lot of the times people are scared of it because they have all these things they didn't say to people, and they're holding stuff in. They never told this auntie that they cared, or that this person, or they've estranged from their brother, or estranged from their father, or whatever. And I've been trying to actively like seek out family members and like bury the hatchet a bit and be like, let's come to good terms, because I would be upset if we didn't do that.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, regardless of what anyone else was going to say or do or feel, you know, it's like there's usually a way to reach common ground. But with the thing of like, if you live the life you want, and if you have progeny, if you have like progeny in terms of the things you create, so music or art or whatever it is you create, or a business or something that will live on, that's positive in the world and is a good influence to people and helps people.
I think the trick is, right?
Yeah.
So people are like, when I die, I just want people to remember me fondly.
Yeah.
I think the actual goal is right before I die, I hope I remember myself fondly.
True. Yes. And know that you've lived the life and you've done everything the way you wanted, and you've any bucket list, any goals you had, any things, you actually did at least a bit of those, because you're probably not going to do everything to the level you want to, especially if you're someone like me and has really high standards. And obviously wants to go beyond those standards to what's beyond there, what's beyond that, what's beyond that, what's beyond that, and becomes obsessive about it, which can just throw you into, you know, unproductive states where you kind of just constantly thinking. But when you actually stop that and go, let's take action, because actions are like, you can think for so long and you can get somewhere, but then you just start looping and you go and you've already thought about that. You already know that. So let's go and apply it, see if it works. It's like, you know, being kind is a really great example. It's a simple thing you can do. Like when you're in the shops and the person says, hey, how are you going today? You say, really well, actually. My day's going really well. How's your day been?
Yeah.
And you're sincere.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just saying it to be a dickhead. You're sincere. And they go, oh, well, you know, I've been here about 2 hours and, you know, I've only got a 4-hour shift today, which is great because I'm going to see my friends later. Or, you know, especially because people in checkouts usually are younger and
do you get
engage,
retail anxiety as a customer?
I used to, because I've been on the other side of it so much. I generally, it depends the way they are to me. If they're trying to hard sell me, I just walk out.
Yeah.
But if they're being genuine, and
like, what about the person at the petrol station on the behind the register at the petrol station?
Depends on their demeanor and stuff too. Like, but if they're short with me, I think maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they just had someone abuse them. Yeah. So maybe I should be even nicer to try and bring them back down. So they're not as, then the little bit of good I can do is get them a bit happier or make them laugh.
That's where my anxiety is though.
Okay.
So before, so now my anxiety is like, you know, like I want to, because I've worked because I've been behind the counter many times, I know how much you can
straight in my ear.
Eat you, man.
Jesus.
I know how much you can feel as though like you're not an actual person. You're a vendor, you know. And so my whole thing is like I get this anxiety about, I do not want them to think that I don't consider them as a human. Then it's like, then I get this anxiety of like, well, how do you do that? Like, have some sort of conversation, engagement, make eye contact, or whatever. And then it's like, how do I do that with the girl that works at my local Foodland who's 14, who like maybe she thinks I'm some creep
I know
or whatever.
Yeah, age appropriateness and all that. Yeah, for sure.
And so then and so, but what I found is, and I found one of the hacks for this that I found that makes me, so like sometimes it goes all right, sometimes it doesn't. Not the hack. I mean, like this whole idea of I'm going to try and not waste their time or hang around too long or whatever, but for that second that like I'm buying milk off of this person, I want to have an actual interaction with this person so that they feel like a human and not a vending machine or whatever. And then you come away and sometimes you're like, that was a good one, that was a bad one, I actually feel worse than I did before I came in here. And my hack for that is that I found that if I can find some way to tell them a relevant story, a contextual relevant story that is kind of embarrassing for me, like makes me the fool.
Self-deprecation.
But not in a like, not mean to myself, like just, you know, just being forthcoming about the fact that, you know, like I think what I'm trying to do is say, just because I'm the one buying and you're the one selling, like I'm not better than you. And here's a story to remind you why. Like I was in the chicken shop the other day. And so I told this story on the line before, I think, but I was in the chicken shop the other day. It's my local chicken shop and they have $16 roasted chickens. The shop next door, the Foodland, sell $9 roasted chickens, right? So I was like, why would I buy fucking $16 chicken when I can just get my hot chips from the chicken shop and then sneak around the corner and then get myself $9 chicken, right? And so, which was fine, except for the one time that I went to do that and I went and snuck next door and they didn't have any $9 chicken. So I had to go back to the chicken shop and buy a $16 chicken with my tail between my legs. And I've always, even though I fully like know, like there's no doubt in my mind that they don't know that I'm sneaking off getting the cheap chicken, right? But I knew I did the dirty on them and they're just some small local business. Anyway, so every time I gone in there, I felt like sus and that they're sus on me and they don't like me or whatever, you know. And so I told them that story. So I'd been going to this chicken shop for a couple of years, and it's always been awkward. I have not been able to break through to them. And I think because of the way I dress and the way I carry myself, and I am confident and whatever, that, you know, I worry sometimes that can translate as I'm confident because I know I'm better than you.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that at all.
No. I think that's what you think.
But again, you know, like, you can't, sometimes people think that I am transcending when I sing Creep, but I'm actually thinking about shopping.
Totally.
So, you know, like, whatever I'm putting out is not always being picked up.
Yeah,
so I told them the story about how I went and got like chickens or whatever, or blah, blah, blah. And now, because I admitted that, and I said to him, look, I got to tell you, I've been sneaking off buying the cheap chickens, and I went to do it the other day and they didn't have any left. So I had to come back and get one of yours. And that's why I'm buying another one of yours today, because yours was actually $7 tastier than theirs, you know, like,
so
it
you
cost more,
explained yourself
and
you
better.
didn't even need to.
No,
like,
but I just did it anyway. Well,
like
I did it like I didn't do it nervously. I did it like a comedically, I guess, you know? And the staff are gathering, and I'm telling this story, and they're like, where is he going with this? I think they thought that I was going to have a go at them for having $16 chickens,
and that's why they were ready to go attack.
And then I was like, and I will never do it again. I'm very sorry. I've been a very naughty boy. Your chickens taste heaps better. And then we all had a good laugh. And now every time I go in there,
it's better.
It's fun. Yeah.
I've got two things about that, because first of all, like, I've been into shops before when I'm very direct and I want to go and do something, or I've got a gig or something, and I'll just say, yeah, I'll have that. And I realize I'm being direct and succinct. I'm not necessarily being rude, but I'm being terse, and, you know, and so that's fine, because they're just like, well, you know, I'm just this person. I'm a vendor. I'll get that for you, sort of thing. But then, depending on their reaction, I can say like, oh, you always do a good job here, or so, just something. You throw something in. Or with the retail thing, is like, say there's someone there and they're trying to, you know, and they say, oh, I'm really sorry, we don't have that size of shoe, or something like that. I'll just go, oh, that's okay. Look, I used to sell shoes too. I know it's hard back there in the stockroom. Things get messed up and blah blah. And then they might go, oh, as soon as you tell someone you've done their job before, it's amazing how they open up. Yeah. Like, a lot of the times when I went into
understanding.
I went into appointments in periods of unemployment, and people would see on there that I did work skill for 2 years and as an employment consultant. And then they'd start telling me stuff they shouldn't about the system. They're like, well, if you want to avoid this and this, if you want to keep getting money when you go on holiday, it's like, whoa.
If you actually listen to people, they tell you everything.
And if they feel that connection, like, it's amazing. Music, this is funny with music too, because you've had this, and I'm sure you have many stories about this, but you play a gig and you're playing a guitar, I play drums, but people come up to me and say, yeah, my cousin's mate's daughter's dog's fish actually used to play drums. Like, there's some person they know of in their family or in their social circle that did the thing that they're now watching. And they obviously enjoyed it, or they have some interest in it, but they want you to know they know someone who does it.
Yeah, my nephew, he's got a cousin, and my nephew's cousin, he actually is also my nephew. So he's one nephew removed from my other nephew. But basically, he's got a dog, and his dog trainer's son. Well, his son's a bit older. His son's in his 20s, so he's got a nephew as well. And his nephew plays drums, which is basically why I'm here talking to you.
Yeah, and you're trying to pack up, or you're trying to, like, if the worst is a changeover, like, you've got to get your shit off before the next band, and someone's in your ear just like, you know, because a lot of that.
We're not saying that those people are bad or anything. But what we're saying is that is an example, an example of someone saying, look, I understand in some way what you do, and I want to talk to you.
And or maybe I've always wanted to do it, but no names. Okay, I'll tell you this story. So I have worked with someone in the past at a certain stage. Let's put it like that. And when I divulged to this person that I'm a musician, they said to me, "Oh, I used to play drums, actually. Yeah, you know, my cousin actually left a drum kit at my house for a little while. I used to be able to play drums. The wife did shut that down after a little while. She told me I had to pack it in and sell them, and so I can't do it anymore. And it's a bit of a shame, because I did have them there for a while. But you know, drums are good, and then just like, talk more kind of thing. And I was like, you let her tell you couldn't have drums? And he's just like, yeah, well, you know, the missus, you know, happy wife, happy life, and all that. And I'm just like, dude, you're like 50. And you haven't
I watched a
put
guy
your foot down yet? Like, come on,
I went
man.
to pick up the kids from school the other day, and I watched this guy.
If that's your passion.
These are pretty much his exact words. This guy sat in front of this other guy, and he was talking about. He basically went, "I'm fucking." I'm not even kidding. These are his words. He goes, "I'm fucking stupid though." Like I really am though. Like I'm fucking so grateful that I've got me wife because I'm a fucking idiot. Like I'm just real fucking stupid. It's like it's a good thing she's around because like I'd fucking set myself on fire. I reckon. Like, but I was like, surely you're not that stupid, man. You can do something.
It's like you don't have any missing limbs. You're still here. You've got both your eyes. Come on, like, you know what? But I think it
just made me sad.
It is sad because
he was talking about it in jest, but
he believed
it.
And that's the problem with. And I've never really had a horrible relationship, but I've been in some situations where I'll be belittled or I'll be talked down to or I'll be called silly or stupid or whatever. And that's been an interesting theme. Through some of them actually being called a goober or something that's like, because I'm unusual and silly and weird. But I don't think I'm silly and weird to the detriment of safety or to, you know, being nice to people. Like I'll forget things and I'll go, oh shit, supposed to pay that or I'm supposed to do that or whatever. But it's because I'm having a good time. It's not because I'm, you know, but the thing about that is like a lot of the times men will not be as needy in terms of like, well, you made me feel like this and you did this. And like, I talk a lot about feelings, but I'm not generally fishing for someone to be like sympathetic or whatever, because I'm like, well, I'll figure it out. It's fine. And I prefer to be that way because it makes you stronger. But there's still that sense of like, if you've got a part like this guy, for example, I'll just imagine his situation. If he is a little bit on the one beer short of a 6-pack side and he kind of does, go to work. I shovel stuff and the boss is like, put it from that hole to that hole. So that's what I do. And get a bit sunburnt, you know, it's not the best, but pays the bills, you know. And so I get home on the Friday, give my wife all the cash. And I just go, oh, can I have 50? Yep, no worries. Buy a slab of fucking red tins, sit down, and it's sport until fucking Sunday night. You know, like some men are like that and they're happy. Yeah. Like, now and again, she lets me stab her. It's fucking no worries.
It's a good thing she handles all the money though, because I'm fucking stupid.
Yeah. I know when I mean stab,
I mean, though. I'm like the dumbest person I know.
But like, and these relationships exist, and this is amazing. They don't sit and talk about the dynamic roles of males and females, and like, you know, and some men will be like, yeah, well, she cooks and I fucking give her money and she cooks. And then on the Fridays, I go and have a few brews with the mates. Come back on the Saturday, Arvo, a bit fucking tanked still, you know. And like, and there's these, and people live like that for 30 years, and it's like, fair enough if it works for you. I'm not judging you, but I like to fuck with the like, you know, be like, let's do the thing that the woman would do for a while, and let's have her do what I would do and see how that works out, and just learn and be, but also just explore our natures. That's the thing. Like I love doing this with like, you know how typically men are supposed to pick up women, right? So men are supposed to go and attempt and be the aggressor, chivalry, be nice and open the door and all these things. I've always had this arrogance of like, well, why don't they come and pick me up?
Yeah.
And I've been picked up maybe twice in my life, but that they weren't good quality women, which I was still like, you know, interested by, and it was an interesting experience. But it's like, why do I have to do it? Why can't you? Because I've got feminine side, right? I'm a little bit special sometimes, and I can be emotional, I can be deep, I can be like introspective and try and see different points of view. So like I can change my base nature, which basically just wants to go out and chop wood and, you know, smash drums and then say, come here, love, and just, you know, like there's part of me that wants to be that way. But it's like I also know how to explore my girly side, and I like it. It's fun. Like, oh my god, that cat is so cute. Oh, like, you know, this soft. I love the soft fur of the thing, and the, you know, all the stuff that you're supposed to not like as a man. You're supposed to fuck that shit. Get in the truck, drive for 6 hours straight, and just fucking, you know, like it's. but it's fun. It's nice to have both sides of yourself. But I've always found it interesting that I've spoken to some females and they've been like, oh, I never would start a conversation with a guy to buy. It's like, why? Oh, well, because they're supposed to come up to me. That's how it works. And it's like, why? Change your programming, evolve past what society or even what your instincts tell you to do. You know, I've been in situations where I could have done something with someone, but I've been like, no, they're too young, or it's not the right time, or it's not the right. And it's like, you tell other men that and they go, oh, fuck that, mate. You should fucking, any hole's a goal. And, you know, you hear all these vulgar things on construct, because I've done some laboring, I've done all sorts of stuff. And it's like,
I feel
actually,
like
no.
people, like maybe not always, but I feel like the guys that say stuff like that have the least exciting stories to tell.
Of course. Yeah, of course they do. Because it's like, and that's the thing about the greater good, is it's like I had there's this one story I was going to mention. Like one time when I was on tour, I did 2 shows, but I went to Melbourne to play with Alters, and I just
have to also point out we're in danger because we're talking about the difference between men and women, and we've mentioned Jordan Peterson like 6 times.
Well, at least we're going to get heaps of controversy views. It's like local musicians discuss controversial figures.
Well, that was kind of one of the other tangents I wanted to touch on, was that it's scary to admit, like Jordan Peterson. I'm going to stick with him as an example because I don't think there's any better example. Jordan Peterson is massively successful because of the results people have had, right? Which is millions of people, right? Yet I'm still scared and nervous to say that I agree with anything he has to say.
Same. And I have that trepidation too because of the controversy. And I've posted some of his stuff being like, guys.
And it always gets
girls,
the reaction.
Whoever, put your life together.
And I remember happens though, doesn't it?
It's funny because people have come into it supposing a viewpoint based on their echo chamber. But my question is to people, does it matter the controversy around someone if what they're saying yields results? If you take the person out of it and have the work, like the book, the 12 steps to whatever, or whatever, the concepts around that, the thing, if applied in your context with all your morals and your beliefs, you don't have to have his beliefs or whatever. And in the end, he's not as important as the thing he made or the concepts that he worked out after years of being a clinical psychologist. So
even if,
and I don't know the guy, so it's like,
so he's got book 12 rules for life. All those rules are pretty just, you know, and I've read the book. I've watched hours and hours and hours of him talking. I've looked really hard for all of the horrible stuff people have said that he said, and I can't find it.
Me neither.
Right. And not only that, I can't remember.
Can I tell you, what if, and this is an idea I've had, and it's probably controversial.
Oh, sorry. Just very quickly. So, okay. So you got 12 rules. They're all sound. Let's say rule number 13 didn't make it into the book and it's in his next book. And rule 13, actually, Jordan Peterson, I mean, you were doing all right for a while, but rule 13 is actually pretty fucked, man.
Yeah.
Does rule 13 make the first 12 rules wrong?
No.
Does, if Michael Jackson is a vicious, ferocious pedophile, or was a vicious, ferocious, like child-consuming pedophile, does that mean his music sucked?
I was going to get to that as well in regards to like comedians and of course not. And can you take the things
like Louis C.K. is not funny anymore?
No, but he is.
But he is.
This is the thing. And the thing is like if something's okay, so that's, but we have to address that, you know, some people, when they get in positions of power, they abuse that and they do the wrong thing. And that wrong thing is still the wrong thing in isolation. Yes. But do you write off the person?
Power isn't a problem. Opportunity just always exists.
The lesson is that in every circumstance you find yourself in, even if you're famous, even if you're wealthy, even if you've got a lot of power over people, making the right choice and doing the right thing is always the right option. So the example I was going to say was like I was in Melbourne, played a gig on a Friday night. This was a mini festival, and I played a gig on Friday night. Went really well with one band. Went over to a different venue. The next night I was staying in the venue, you know, it was a really good trip. And I was single at the time, so I wanted to do the whole thing. You know, I wanted to play the show, have a great show, have some drinks, find someone, and, you know, hook up and that sort of thing too, because that was always something that I'd wanted to do for a long time and never been able to do. Of course, when you go looking for something, you don't necessarily find it. But it found me potentially at the second gig afterwards, because I was just watching the last band, like some stoner band, on till 1 or 2 a.m. And I had a few drinks in me because we had a decent rider. And one girl just came up to me, blonde, good looking, grabs my hand and just goes like that towards the band, as in like, you know, let's enjoy this. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Right. So then she's like, do you want to come to a bar with me? And I was like, because I'd made friends with the security guard when I was practicing as well. So I knew, because I like to do that at venue, like find out who security is, make a personal connection. That way, if something goes down, they know my face and I'm not going to get fucking glassed or whatever.
Very important.
It's a little thing I like to do. Plus, because they have a hard job. And I feel compassion for them because they have to deal with drunk idiots. And you want them to protect
your stage.
That's right. Well, yeah. And not let fucking wankers in who are going to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So this girl's like this, and then she was like, do you want to come do this? You know, do you want to come with me? Basically, do you want to come and take me somewhere or whatever? And I was just like, oh, I'm just anybody. I'm just anybody to this person. She doesn't know me. We've only stood next to each other for about 5 minutes and then had a bit of a, because there's other people and, you know, and I'm just like, I was like, what? And I started asking her questions. And I was drunk at this point. And don't get me wrong, I wanted to have sex the whole trip.
Yeah.
But something in me went, take the higher route, do the, I can't remember what I said to my bandmates. You know, I'm going to basically do the right thing in this situation. But she was becoming desperate. And she was probably going off to other people trying to find someone to take her to this late night bar. And she got wasted. Trashed. Who knows if she just got broken up with or she just lost a parent into a, you know, you don't know what's just happened to her to present this way and need some validation or whatever. She was good looking. It was, you know, it could have happened. But I had like people from the band in my ear, like, oh man, just fucking go, just take it. Like, and I'm just like, no, I'm going to take the high road. That's what I said. Taking the high road. Anyway, she ended up getting kicked out by the security guy. And he looked at me at one point. He said, do you know this girl? And I said, no, I just met her tonight. And he's like, she's gone. And he just threw her out the door, basically. Wow. Not like violently, but just said, you need to leave.
Yeah.
Because we stay there all night because we're packing up and stuff, right? And I remember getting in the car with my bandmates, and me and the bass player had been the ones drinking because the other two didn't drink or couldn't because they had to drive. And we're just being silly in the back, and it's like a higher car. So we're like, what does this button do? Oi, what does that do? And like the, you know, the guitarist is like, fuck off, guys. You kids in the back, just shut up. Like we're like, he's like in his 40s and I'm like, you know, 30 at the time or whatever. Yeah. And we're having a good time. But I saw this girl who was now just like this, you know, just flopping around out the front.
Yeah.
And I saw all these like dudes in bullet belts and like jackets just like mincing over to her, just like, oh, here's one. And I just thought, because I said to her before she'd got kicked out, I said, you don't need someone tonight. You need to go home and think about your life. And I just gave her this real talking to of like, there's something going on in your life. And she got desperate. I was like, just come with me. It got started like getting me upset. And I just thought, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. Even though I was drunk. And even though I'd wanted that whole trip. And that was an example of me where the higher self.
Even though in retrospect, she might have been better off with you.
Whoa, yeah, this is the thing. But she might have had an ex waiting for me at that bar, and she wanted to. Yeah. I don't fucking know. Yeah. Like I didn't know the person.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, you know, I had compassion. I had all those things, but I did say to her, you don't need a guy tonight.
Yeah.
You need to work yourself out. But maybe she'd built her personality on that validation of being a hot blonde who. And, you know, it's like, I think I did the right thing. But then as we're leaving, and of course, we've got a flight the next day. We haven't had much sleep. We have to go back. It's 2 a.m. You know, we're getting up at 6 to go and get the flight to come back to Adelaide. And it's like, I've got my own shit to worry about. She brought herself here. These are her decisions. Like, I can't save the world. But the fact that those guys were like just walking, and maybe they were going to help her get home. Who knows? But they didn't look like they were going to. And I just thought, that's kind of fucked up. But I'm not going to go up to him and be like, oi, what are you doing? This girl's vulnerable, man. And then get into a fight and get my teeth knocked out. So it's like, but the greatest good I think I could do is not take advantage.
Yeah.
Try and tell her some stuff about, because you can always go home. That's the thing. Like, I've realized that about when I've been in emotional distress. You can always go home if you've got the means and just fucking do nothing.
Yeah. One of the, and it's this is pretty dark, but one of the things that is probably not popular to say is that, and I've been in situations like this, I think we all have in some degree, where you're like, I probably could have done something. I probably should have stepped up, you know, like maybe I could have stopped that or whatever. But if you want to be really honest with yourself, sometimes like in that case, if it's like you and there's 12 of them or whatever, or it doesn't have to be a sexual thing, just be a violent thing. I've seen my mates get beat up and not being able to do anything about it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, not only can I not stop that, my attempt to do it is I'm just going to add one more assault to it.
Yeah.
It'll be me.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, yeah, I don't know.
It's no, I think like that too. And there was another story that I think I may have even told this in one of my groups to my young people I help. Is that because we were talking about fights and stuff and how, you know, because they would just come out of high school, so they're talking about good and bad peer pressure. So good peer pressure might be like, oh, get up and have a go on the instrument, or get up and do your talk. Bad peer pressure is like standing in a circle saying fight, 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 because you're pressuring two people to be violent, which is bad, obviously. So, and there was discussions around that and stories were being thrown around. And I told this story of when I used to live in Martin, right? When I was share housing. And I was walking around listening to, I think it was Ruins or some sort of black metal band, and the stars were out and it was a beautiful night and it was balmy. And I was just like, this is nice. Like, I was just walking around with big headphones on too, very silly. You know, 10 o'clock at night, 9:30, whatever. And I walked down one of the streets on the way back. And I saw these two dudes, like just obviously drug abuse, some sort of aggression, and there was a girl walking home really, really quickly and they were following her. And I was on the opposite side of the road and I looked and thought, this doesn't look good. And I took all the headphones off, I turned the music off, and I just was there and I just waited for her to round a corner, and they noticed me. And the first thing they said to me is, do you want to die tonight, mate? And then walked across the road quite quickly. And I just went, not really. And I just ran as fast as I could. And they tried to run after me, but I was quicker. And I just used logic. I was sober. I was fine. I just ran around two corners. So I ran around the first corner, then they got to that corner, and I'd already run around a second, so they didn't know where I was. I just hid in someone's garden.
Which is the same. That's the exact same situation. Obviously, different potential outcomes, but that's the same situation as you with the girl at the gig.
Yeah, it could have been really bad for me.
Well, I mean, you were just another person. They,
you know,
they didn't care about
good
who
point.
you
Good
were.
point. I was just something to put their aggression
something
onto.
to destroy, you know, or something to fuck, or something to.
And I value myself. I shouldn't say valued as a past tense. I do value myself to the point, because if I'm going to do the best good in the world, I need everything working. I need all my teeth so I can eat a steak. I need, I need my muscles so I can pull someone off someone if someone's being attacked. I need it all, so I'm going to keep it all, because I haven't made the mistakes I haven't been violent. I've never been in fights,
I need to survive enough to get to the point that I might actually have to fight for my life.
Yeah, man. And that's where, like, I've never really done martial arts, but I've always wanted to when I feel like I'm at the point where I could handle that kind of power and knowledge about how to interact with people. But the thing that happened after that.
Sorry, I just got to add to that.
Yeah, of course.
So I was talking to a security guard at a gig the other night, and his guy's named Teo. He's a fucking legend. He's the coolest security guard I've ever met. He's half Russian, half Chinese. He's built like the fucking Hulk, but he is the friendliest. Like, oh, could you please like play me some I love Bob Marley and I love this, blah blah blah. And he's like talking, he's like showing me photos of his son. His son goes to Mercedes College. He's like, I work 18-hour days every day so my son can go to this school, and he's like getting this award and that award and blah blah blah. And he's telling me about this, and then he's like showing me photos of his back, and I'm like, wow, you really do look like the Hulk. And he's like, feel my arm, and I'm like, Jesus, man, it's like fucking granite.
Yeah, that's so good.
Anyway, I've been seeing him around, so I've been getting to know him at different gigs, and I've never seen him before, but now that I've seen him, all of these different places I'm playing at, he's there. So we're starting to get to know each other, and we're talking. And he's offered for me to come and like train with him sometimes, because sometimes we talk about exercise and whatever and meditation, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, come train with me. I do training with, there's a special, I can't remember what they're called, a special indigenous clan of indigenous Australians that are maybe one of, or the only indigenous Australian clan that has a martial arts style.
Yep.
Anyway, we got to this question where I was basically asked to him, I was like, because I've had this thing in mind of like, maybe I need to learn how to fight.
Yeah.
Not with the mindset of like I need to prepare for a battle, but
No.
prepare myself for a battle I hope I never have to be in, and
Exactly.
if that
Yes.
moment comes up and I
Yes.
wasn't able to defend myself,
Yep.
will that have been my fault?
Yeah.
And so I asked him, this guy that's all or nothing, whose job is to get into altercations sometimes. So I said, do you think everyone needs to know how to fight? And he went, no. And I was like, well, why? Which his answer surprised me because he's ready for anything. He was telling me he's been stabbed in the head because he lived in, like stabbed with a sword and like glassed in the head and all this sort of stuff and whatever. So this is a guy that's been in fucked up situations. And I said to him, do you think he knows how real shit can get? And so I said, do you believe everyone needs to know how to fight? And he said, no. And then he could tell that I was confused by that. And he was like, look, if it, and by it, I think he meant life, the universe, God, whatever. If it wants your nose broken and your teeth kicked in, it'll happen no matter how much you train. If that's what is meant to happen to you, it's gonna.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
See, anyway, we've been going for like nearly 4 hours.
Really? Yes. I'll do 2 real quick things.
Wrap us up.
The real quick thing was that situation with the girl was getting followed home. She got home, I believe, because when I hid in the garden, I just heard those guys go mental and start kicking over letterboxes and getting angry because they lost both prey, whether it was a fight or a woman.
Yeah.
Because I was outsmarted them. I was cunning. So I avoided that. And the other thing I was going to say is like there's a security guard that I met in the Bendigo Hotel in Melbourne who was very cool, Russian as well, smaller guy. Yeah. But him and the bartender and everyone there was really cool. And at one point we had all these people because I was staying there as well and they knew me from previous days. And it was like 11 o'clock on a Tuesday or something. I can't quite remember. And all these rabble were in there, people like sports fans and stuff. This was a metal bar, right? And it got to about 11:30 and I heard the bartender say, should we just close up and get these people out? And they went, yeah, let's do that. And then they got them out and I was getting ready to go up to accommodation and the bartender said, oh, just hang around. And she like poured me a free beer, put her feet up on the bar and just lit a cigarette in the bar. Yeah. And I was just like, this is sick. And we just sat there and had a really good conversation for about an hour and a half. Yeah. And then I went up to bed. Yeah. And I was like, the rules, all these rules in life, because all those people were like, oh, they're closing. Well, better get out, better go home, blah, blah, blah. But they just didn't want those people there. Yeah. And they had the power to change that. Yep. So it's like, do the right thing, obviously. But there's rules, but there's then how situations play out around those rules. And always, obviously, you maintain your safety, you look after everyone and that sort of thing. But just remember, you can sort of bend the world a little bit. Yeah. If you want to. And if you've got good intentions.
Well, dude, we've been saying we're going to do this for a very long time. We finally have done it.
We've done it, and it was a very long time.
It was a very long time. And I'm glad we did it. I had heaps of fun, man.
It was good fun.
Where would you like people to try and find you? Where can they find you?
I don't really have a public podcast presence or anything like that. I do attend comedy some Tuesday nights at the Crown and Anchor. I should probably give him a plug. Like Ross is the guy who runs the room every Tuesday. Yep. It's a free gig. You can donate money if you want. But it's just a great atmosphere. Get along. There's $5 beers from 9 to 11, I believe. It's
where's this at?
Crown and Anchor Hotel in the city. Cranker. And it's just a great bar. It's one of the kind of bars where I can walk in with my backpack on, track pants, and they don't care.
And
it's nice.
It's
good atmosphere.
Any extreme metal enthusiasts?
I am.
What should they cut their teeth on if they want to?
Oh, what should they cut their teeth on? Yeah.
Of your material, material? Where would you send them? Yeah.
Well, the thing that got the most traction was Alter's Paramnesia, which is a death metal album, which we still get some press from that today, even though the band's disbanded.
ALTARS?
Altars, yeah. Yep. And Paramnesia, it's a full length, it's a conceptual album about life, death, and rebirth.
Cool.
I should be seeing Lewis in Melbourne next week when I see Emperor as well. Yep. And we should be able to catch up, and that'll be great because it's been a long time. I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. Abstract the Light's going to have a film clip out soon.
Cool.
Which is great. Yep. Viking themed black metal band. Yep. And we're playing on the 27th at Heavy SA. So there's all that, if you're into metal and you're in Adelaide, you'll know about all this stuff anyway. But
you send me a bunch of links and I'll put them in the description.
Yeah, stuff. Because there's other stuff coming up. I've also been accepted to do Blacken Festival, which is a festival in New Zealand, not New Zealand, Northern Territory. Yeah. which is going to be a lot of fun.
Ever been there?
Never.
Wicked.
It's in nature. It's going to be cool. Camping, beers, metal, cool people, under the stars. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. But I think, you know, I've had to work for all of that.
Yeah.
And if you've got something you're passionate about, keep working at it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you have to work full time. You know what I mean? That's what I'd leave people with. Is like, you can get there. It might just take a while.
Mm-hmm. Dude,
no worries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dude.
All right, boys and girls. That is me. That was a long one. That was good. Life is too short for things you can't say. If you would like to support this podcast and these videos, the best way to do that at the moment is by supporting my music on Bandcamp, and you might even like it, so that's cool. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Adios. At ShaunMeet on Instagram.